They visited some guys off the cuff at their house. A couple of guys got scared real fast, started talking with them, cooperating with them. They were scared because the feds told them, look, we're going to take your house, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. People were freaked out.
Welcome, everybody, to the Warrior Podcast. We have a long-awaited one, special guest Jimmy Place. We had such an outpouring from all of our trading friends, everybody urging us to do part 2. Today, I proudly present my dear friend Jimmy Place.
Good morning, Frank, and thanks for having me back.
Love it. I just wanted to do a shout-out to the 4 guys who are my main guys on the trading floor, who I'm getting a little emotional. Without, I would not be who I am today. My brother, Andy Thompson, Kevin Watson, Cliffy Rapier, and Mike Taylor. You guys are my guys. We were brothers, and I just want to do a shout out to you.
God bless.
Sorry about that. All right, boys, here we go. Jimmy Place. You wanted to recap some of the stuff we did before.
Yeah, so I wanted to finish up the S&Ps and then onward to the Eurodollars, but there's a little bit to finish up there that, you know, after doing the first podcast, you realize, you know, you left a few things out and a few names out because I've gotten a million text messages, private messages on social media, and everybody saying, oh my God, this is great. Brings back so many memories. They like that it's not hardcore. They love the funny stories, and they love the positive spin to it, which you know, I think everybody likes. And so once again, there is no negative spin here. So we're going to talk about the S&Ps. Finishing that up, talk about that market a little bit more, and then go to the Eurodollars and go from there for a while. And but I'm going to put my glasses on here. So I have to make a few corrections about some of my stories that I heard from some of my friends. These traders in that S&P pit, like we talked about in the last, there was no E-minis, there was no edges, there were no giant orders resting that you could lean on. These guys were the rawest of the raw and the talented of the talented traders. You know, so again, I want to give a shout out to Louis Borsellino and Joey Borsellino, Kenny Carlin, who Kenny ended up helping me out later. You know, thank you, Kenny. You know, Ricky Jamin, I got down here. I don't want to leave it on. Chucky Corbett. You know, Jan Kroll was in there. Greg Reba. No, there's a bunch of you. And one of my favorite guys down there forever, and we've been through a lot together, Bobby Galt. Love you, Bobby. You were awesome. And Bobby was one of the guys that helped me later among a few others. But I want to give a special shout out and blessings to Bobby Hohenadel, who I forgot to bring up in the last podcast, but Bobby Ho, as we called him, was one hell of a guy. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, and along with a few others. But Bobby Ho is a real special human being. And we'd run into each other from time to time, and you know, he was something else. I want to give a shout out to Linda Lombardo. Linda passed away a few years ago. She was one of everybody's all-time favorites. She was a local in the S&Ps where she started, and she's LSL. She was something else, and you know, I just wanted to remember some of these names. And Cindy, the out-trade clerk, along with
Cindy
Kathy
Lorenzo,
yeah, legend. So Cindy, along with Kathy Mooney, 2 of my all-time favorites. I love you girls. God bless you, Cindy. Hope you're having peace. But you guys were awesome too. And you know, I just wanted to make sure I just remembered a lot of people. You know what I mean? And then there's another guy I want to remember, Mark Schulte. Mark came from a family. His dad and uncle were in the commodities and the cattles and the meats and everything, you know, way back in the day. And me and Mark came up together and got seats together, and Mark traded in the S&Ps, and he was a dear, dear friend of mine all through the years. And he ended up working for the exchange, actually, and was one of the most honest and most fairest guys you ever met. And unfortunately, Mark passed away also. There's so many of us who have passed away, and including, like I said, Mick Morkin, his brother Terry, who you knew.
Yep.
There's so many of us have left, and it's very sad, but this is all for you guys, okay? And I want to give a shout out to a couple of the guys going back to the bellies that I wanted to say how special you are to me, like Dom Vecchio. Love you, Dom, from Elmwood Park. Loved your family, loved your dad, your brothers. And Andy Feldman, thanks for calling me and touching base, buddy. We brought back a lot of memories. You were awesome, one of my first friends, and down there, and we had some good times together. And I hope you're all living great down there on Palm Beach. If I can be your cabana boy, that would be great, because I might need a new job soon. So. A few of my good friends, Jordan Dolan, tough as hell.
He beat on me a couple times in the dojo. So
Jordan is great, and it was we do a lot of stuff together, me and Jordan, these days.
Yeah, he's just
great personal friend with a lot of the Priscilla Presley events I've done. He's her security. She loves him to death, and a few other things, and love him like a brother. Awesome. Great guy. So anyway, let's wind this up. And the first thing you're going to do is I'm going to fix the Vic Spilatro story. So I've got a little heat. And Vic, I hope you're not mad at me, but in the prior episode, I had said that, a couple of days before the crash, and Vic had 800 cars on. And no, it was 2 months before the crash. That's the foresight he had. And he was already such a great trader, fearless trader, a fearless human being, but he had like 2,500 cars on. 2,500
in the spoos, which is insane.
Okay, back then, 2,500 cars in the spoo, and I might be off 100 or two, but call it 2,500 because I was called with the correction. That's $1,250,000 every handle.
And how many handles could you go through in a busy market?
You know what? The ranges weren't that big back then, but still you could go through 5.
Yeah,
6,
so
7.
That's $5-7 million in a day, right?
But that could have brought down the clearing firm.
Right.
And you know how it is when the stock's really going against you. You have a tendency to double up or not get out. But anyway, I wanted to clean that up, and I helped get him out of a lot of them. And somebody brought it to my attention that actually when I was bidding on his orders in the pit, he actually was hitting me on them. So they really didn't count because he wanted it to go lower. So
that's crazy.
So I just had to fix that story up. And but great trader, and he ended up doing very well down there. And he's down there in Palm Springs or Palm Beach too. So God bless you, buddy. And so.
And I wanted to say something to Vic through our family connections. You got me on the trading floor. I'll never forget being first day meeting you, and you were so sharply dressed with your Armani ties.
Oh,
you were like a movie star, and I appreciate you getting me down here, brother.
Dressed to a T. I mean, he was the guy. He became the king out there on the restaurants and Vic was the guy. He was the guy. One more shout out I want to give, who I reconnected later. I don't know if anybody remembers Orrin Koulis.
I remember the name.
Orrin, was in the bellies with me. And that's how I met Donnie Greco. And Donnie Greco now, Donnie had restaurants, great singer, great guy. And he's still going strong.
Awesome.
He was good friends with Orrin, but Orrin ended up going to Hollywood. And Orrin started getting into the movie business. So I think it was Paramount or somebody, but he worked his way up, and then he put a group together and they produced the first Saw movie.
Oh, wow.
And he did like 7 more, and we ended up making $1 gazillion and buying the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team.
Wow.
And, all sorts of stuff like that. So, Orrin, if you're out there, buddy, I hope all is well.
Nice.
Anyway, so to finish only the S&Ps up, let me just go back real quick. I want to partially dedicate this not only to the people we have lost and the great traders and brokers we had in there, but to my friend Jeff Esterbrook. May you rest in peace. Jeff was a dear friend of mine who worked with me 20 to 25 years. He was a friend I met in Northfield, and him and his beautiful wife, Kathy, and his kids, that they're just the greatest. Clay and Bailey. And Jeff passed away right before Christmas, and I was lucky enough to go visit him. And so a lot of this is for you, buddy, because you were my most loyal soldier I had. I just want you to know that, and I want your family to know that. I hope you're finding peace in heaven, and say hello to everybody up there for me.
I just want to interject, Jimmy. One of the great things about your personality is you are acknowledging all these people who helped you. Your ego doesn't say, yeah, I'm self-made. Like, you had a lot of help getting to where you're at, and you acknowledge that, and I love that about you.
People helped me later when I had some rough times and did some stupid things. Look, there's that old saying, and I'll say it right now, when I make a mistake, I don't make it twice. I make it 20 times. You know what I mean? I make it 20 times, and sometimes there was some people there to help pick up the pieces to my 15th mistake. Some of these guys helped me out later, and you know who you are, all that other stuff. But I'm not shy to say it. I want to thank you. I mean, it could have been on your roll as Billy Big Shit for a long time, but everybody has their day sometimes.
Yep.
And, things change.
That's hilarious,
that's okay.
Brother.
But we're not there yet. So let's talk about some fun stuff. Anyway, so in the S&Ps, it was after the crash and all that craziness. It calmed down. Started calming down. And it started getting a little slower. After that, everything settled in, and then we lost dual trading. They wouldn't let us order fillers up top trade for our accounts, which was great. And you can say what you want about it, and everybody has their opinions. But with the market slowing down and everything else like that, and you're not be able to dual trade, your income, I made most of my money trading. And now your income is really cut. And it was the locals who got together and decided to vote on this. And I wasn't too happy at the time, because some of the locals voting on this were guys I started on the trading floor. So I was just, deciding what to do, just going along filling, and it was boring not to be able to trade, and also by this time, I had some family members in the pit. My brother Chuck moved from New Jersey, and he came on, because the markets were so busy.
I remember him.
Yeah, get on out here, Chuck. And so he got there, he got set up, and we leased him a seat and got him a nice apartment in the city. All that other stuff, got him set up. And John Fahey at the time, my brother-in-law. Yeah. Yep. So John and Chuck, they got going in the S&Ps too. And we're doing pretty good. And, so it was good. And, brought a lot of friends from Deerfield that I grew up with, that were my great friends, like Perry Smith and Larry DeAngelis, Bill Holloway, Mike Smith, a few others, so, and they were all doing good. And so it was great. Times were great. Like I said, magic. So everybody was doing good. But all of a sudden, somebody called me upstairs, Jimmy Kalenis, and we were just talking about a few things. And he goes, I heard Dick Lawrence filled 300,000 cars last month. I said, what? I said, what? 300,000 cars? 300,000 in a month? He goes, yeah, the Eurodollars. Now, I wasn't one who paid attention much to what else was going on. Meanwhile, the currencies had started to take off. The Eurodollars were opened. And little did I know, in the Eurodollar pit, out of nowhere, very quietly, people were filling hundreds of thousands of cars a month.
And just so I interject for people who aren't floor people, when you're filling in the S&Ps, a whole day, a good day is you're filling 2,000 cars, right? And which is 50,000 a month, 40,000 a month. Yeah. This guy's doing 300,000, and that was the infancy of the Eurodollars. Yeah, they got to the point where they fill 100 grand in a day, right? So this was like new frontier for you.
Yeah, it was new. So I was just checking it out. I remember walking around the pit, and I'm seeing these guys in there, and there was Derby over there, Dickie, and Dave Rothner, Pizzazz, Pat Maloney, who I got to know a little bit, and they're crazy clerks, which I'll get into. And I'm looking up there, and I'm watching them bang out 500 lots and 1,000 lots. Like, wow. So I was like, And with the S&P slowing down and everything else like that, and having had a great run, Placeland was intact. And I just got done with some new tennis courts, and I had a big circle, and I put it in the middle of it where it said Placeland. I built some new basketball court and had it all in neon colors and 3-point lines and a big P in the middle of that. So I had it all going on. Bought a house in Palm Springs.
Of course you did.
Yeah. So Jimmy Kalenis had a house in Palm Springs, and me and Mary went out there to visit, and I fell in love with it. I'd never been there.
Beautiful place.
Beautiful place. So I bought one. I went and visited, stayed at a hotel in Palm Springs, and then I was looking at Jim's house and these houses. I'm like, this is gorgeous out here. So I got a realtor when we were out there, and we went around, found a house, we bought it. Called my bank, said I want to buy this house. I said, okay. Handle the closing, all that. So we bought a house. So we had a house in Palm Springs, which was awesome. And super great times out there. That was something else. And just to touch on Palm Springs a little bit, Kalenis had a house over on one cul-de-sac. I had a house over here. Sebo, Paul Carbonero, he had a house over here. Harold Golub, who I've become friends with through Jim, had a house over here. Harold owned Chicago Limousine. And at the time was the biggest limo company in Chicago, and he drove everybody. The stars, you name it. And Harold was great because he would tell me what restaurant they were going to be at, And so I'd make sure I was at that restaurant when he brought them there, and we'd go in and I'd try to say hi to the stars. One great story is Frank Sinatra was in town, and Harold was driving him, and he was doing the Chicago theater thing with whatever it was, the Rat Pack. It was like the late '80s Rat Pack reunion. You had Dean Martin with him, Sammy Davis Jr. I don't think Dean Martin made it though. So they were going to Morton's after the thing. So Harold tells me, be at Morton's. So me, Mary, and her mom, Carmen, I said, we're going to meet Frank Sinatra. We went to dinner, and we went over to Morton's. And Harold's standing out there like this. And he points. He's like, Sinatra's in there. We walk in there, and there's Sinatra at a table. In a little room with about 6, 7, 8 guys, a couple of bodyguards, whatever. And Mary and her mom are there. And all of a sudden, Harold must have said something because he knew him a little bit because he drove him. And so Sinatra's over there, and he's like this. I'm like, this is so cool. This is Frank Sinatra. So we walk over there, and he looks at me. He goes, what are you doing? I go, you told us to come over, Mr. Sinatra. He goes, not you. He goes, you can get the fuck out of here. He goes, I said, excuse me. He goes, you can get the fuck out of here. And this guy looked at me and left. He goes, I want to talk to the pretty ladies. So I had to walk back out of there. I'm like, I'm going to
wow.
And I'm like, okay. But Mary and Carmen got to meet Frank Sinatra, talk to him. They came out of there on cloud 9, and I'm like pissed. Frank didn't want to talk to me. And I'm like, that's cool. We got in the limo, and my mother-in-law was, oh my God, I was a Bobby Soxer. I used to go see him. Oh my God, I can't believe we met Frank Sinatra. So, but that was great. And then Harold would tell us where Springsteen's going to be, where Madonna's going to be. He drove them all. And he even drove Elvis back in the day. But Palm Springs ended up being a great place, if we can get into that a little bit. We started going, and we'd go at the same time as everybody else, and whether it be Easter break or whatever they might be. And me, Jim, Harold, and whomever else would play cards, some gin rummy, we love that. And they had this guy, Fritz, and JoJo will know who Fritz is, and a bunch of others will. They had this guy, Fritz, who was... somebody had told me, he was a paper boy for Al Capone. He must have been 80 years old at the time. This is 1988, whatever it is. And he lived up in Cathedral City, I think. But Fritzy watched our houses. Fritzy picked us up at the airport. We'd come to the airport. He'd be there, take our luggage, bring it back to the house. We'd get our rent-a-car or whatever. Easy peasy. And then I met the guys who ran American Airlines. And I realized how locked in American Airlines was with this group.
You guys even had a freaking airlines at your finger
American
snap.
Airlines was at our, not mine. Okay, it wasn't my finger snap, even though I got to meet them and used to tip them and give them money, but they would watch a couple of houses for people, the managers of American Airlines there, and it was small there. So that was great. I mean, when we'd go home back to Chicago, Fritzy would come and get the luggage. I mean, Fritzy was a cartoon character. He looked like a cartoon character. We all chipped in one year and bought him a red truck with the royal flush on it.
Nice.
He was a degenerate gambler. But, when you were leaving to go back, if the flight was at 11, Fritzy came and got the luggage at 10, brought it there. He'd come back and get us, whatever. We'd go to the airport at 5 to 11, walk right on the plane. These guys had it waiting for us. And then every time I made a reservation, I'd make it through them. If I was going to fly into Palm Springs from Chicago, I'd get to the gate. They'd bump us all up to first class, and I took care of them every time I saw them and basically accommodated you, change flights, do whatever you want. You know what I mean? So that was great. And then we had some great restaurants there. And Riccio's, a guy out of New York on that great Italian restaurant that, Jim Kalenis turned us on to. And we'd always go there and have great dinners and Cristal champagne. And it was a magic time out there. And then and Sonny Bono opened a restaurant out there, Bono's. So we would go there. They had this piano player named Joe Jaggy. And the reason it was Joe Jaggy, because this guy was so whacked out playing the piano, but, high as a kite, but he was great. Played all Sinatra and everything. So we'd go see him at Bono's. And we went into Bono's one night and Sonny Bono was there. So it's me and Calentis and a bunch of others, whomever. And, long story short, Sonny had his little family in there, his mom, his wife, and everybody. And they made Sonny get up and sing for us. So Sonny was up there, I got you, babe. I got flowers. And, you could tell he doesn't want to be doing this. You know what I mean? With his piano player, Joe Jaggy. I mean, they're like a duo up there. And Sonny's just like, oh, fuck you guys. But he had no choice. So it was great. But one of the nights we're in there and Sonny Bono's mom is in there. It's just kind of like a heavy set. I remember, gray hair. And she's sitting there and it's a little twitchy, and all of a sudden I'm watching her and she pulls this big strand out of her head, watching her pull her hair out, and she's pulling some of her hair out and stuff, and all of a sudden she takes a strand of her hair and she's like,
get out of here.
Starts flossing her teeth with her hair. I'm like, check this out. I said, Mary, check this out. Sonny Bono's mom is now sitting there watching her son sing, I got you, baby. She's fucking flossing her teeth with her hair. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just hilarious. So, but like I said, we had great times there, and we got to meet some guys out there who had a jewelry store or whatever you want to call it, called Madison and Company. And, it was Sam Bianca and Mark Liddy. They were great guys, and they had this jewelry store, and friends with Jim and everybody else there. And that's where we started getting our jewelry. And, it was one hell of a story. Had every artifact. And when Sam Bianca was a Napoleon freak, so he had all Napoleon stuff. And that became our friendly neighborhood Palm Springs jewelry store. And it was quite a collection of characters that hung out there too. So we had a blast out there, but we love Palm Springs, and, that was a magical time too. But, great times out there, and I miss them. Should have never gotten rid of that house. But anyway, so everything was good.
So now the brokers are the king in the city of Chicago and the king in Palm Springs, right?
No, I'm no king in Palm. Jim Calentis was the king in Palm. Look, he was the king in Palm.
Well, you were in the king's court at that time.
I was in the king's court, and then when he wasn't around, I played king. Yeah. So I made no mistake who was king. So anyway, I had gotten just like, okay, this is slow. Okay.
In the S&Ps.
Yeah, and I'm hearing all these rumors about Eurodollars, and I just check it out. Even the currency pits, they had a lot of stuff going on. So, a lot of the guys had stopped kind of trading. Like I used to fill Leo Malamud's stuff, trade, his stuff. He'd give me all his orders. His son, during that heyday, it was fun. And you're doing great stuff for Leo's, his son Jordy, and their son-in-law was in the pit. Leo's son-in-law and Jordy Malamed, who's such a great guy, Jordy. I was doing such a great job for them. They took all their business from their southern brother-in-law. So I would be doing all their stuff and be filling these guys' stuff, everybody's stuff. And all of a sudden they stopped kind of trading, and it was just the fun all of a sudden kind of came out of it. It was such a nice 4-year stretch that it was, just like, so, but beginning of 89, and still making a nice living filling orders. I mean, I still had a big deck. Back in the heyday of the deck, there were times I filled 100,000 cars a month in there. That was 4,000 cars a day, but I learned to go with the trading. But it was slower now. Broke those in half, and I was making a nice living. I didn't know anybody, any money. I wasn't into any things, investing in anything. Like I remember I told you, it was simple and nice. So, Harry Lawrence, he was filling along with Bob Rooney. I forgot to mention Bob Rooney, RLS. Bob came along and helped us fill in the S&Ps with Mike Allebeck and Harry and everybody else. So, the deck was pretty well set. We had all the deck handlers, like I said, and it's just like kind of getting the itch. You know what I mean? I wanted to be busier. And so, again, I was up with Kalenis, and he told me again, Dick Lawrence filled this and Dick Larazant. They're filling all these orders over there because I got a guy in there now. We got somebody in there. Pete Stavros, Opa, he was in there. And I'm like, great. Out of nowhere, my clerk, Vince Hall, who I love, I hope he's doing great out there today. He had a friend named Ted Mersch, who you know Ted.
Yep, Teddy Mersch.
So Ted and Vince were great friends. And so Ted asked Vinny, I remember talking to him upstairs, said, well, Ted wants maybe let you fill some Eurodollars. Check it out. I said, I'd love to. Like, what are you talking? He goes, I don't know, 1,000 or 2 a day. I'm like, yeah, I want to check it out. And then I could go in the Eurodollars and then be done at 2:00 and go back and finish up the S&Ps to 3:30. It's great. So we went over there and it was the first and second option. So he wanted me to go like in the second option. I'm trying to remember if I stood between the second and the first guys, whatever it was. Pete Mulcrone let me stand next to him. He was nice about it.
Yeah. So it was between the front and second option because Pete was right at the end.
Yeah, because it was only the first and second option at the time when I got over there. And
Pete, what a force of nature. Just a sidebar. Pete Mulcrone was a locomotive. So.
No, more than a locomotive. He was a freak of nature.
Yep.
It's just like somebody said in your podcast, he's this big, strong, silverback ape. You know what I mean? And built like that. And
I just want to tell one story.
Yeah,
I was a
ahead.
phone clerk, and the Eurodollars were exploding. You were in the S&Ps and doing your legend thing, and it was so tight. All right, like I was a pit clerk. The guy had to bench press the guy in front of him so you could squeeze in. All right, so when the momentum would get going, the clerks would either pop out of the pit like a pimple or pop into the pit. Like we were so tightly packed. And one day the wave came from the front option to Pete Mo, and he popped out of the pit. And he started snorting like a bull. He got up there, and he literally, like he was hitting the blocking sled on the football field, he went all the way to Derby. He cleared the deck. He was all the way 50 feet away. He had cleared everybody out. And there was not a damn thing they could do to stop.
No.
I never forgot that.
He was hilarious because when I went in there, if it got a little too much, he'd give it one of those shoves. And just give it the look and knock this fucking shit off. And, all of a sudden 5 people fell down, But now you bring that back, we were sardined in there, like sideways. And we got that way in the S&Ps a little bit when it was busy. But this was like, you're in there like that. And, Pete Mo was just the beast of it. But anyway, so I remember I got my first order. I think it might have been sell 100, sell 200. And I didn't know the players, the traders, and the only brokers I really knew were, Derby and that group and Pete Stavros and then, there's Pat Mulcrone across the pit. And I've seen these guys and, knew their dad a little bit. And so I started filling a few hundred cars, and I'm trying to trade with the right guy. I remember Keith Burchett,
Monster
trader, great guy, fearless. And so I started trading with some of those guys, and a couple of people said, you kind of look for who's got what on, just make sure you trade with them, and if he sells you whatever, and you get more to buy. I said, I know how to do this. I said, I know how to do this.
It's courtesy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so started filling in there, and all of a sudden, you fill a few 500 lots, and you're this. I'm like, wait, did I just fill 2,000 cars? It's like, buy 100, buy 100, buy 100. I'm like, I just filled a 500 lot, getting paid $1.50 for it. I'm like, if a 500 lot in the S&Ps, I would have broke out in a freaking sweat. It would have been keeping your count. It would have been da. You had 2 different handles, unless somebody's taking you out. And I'm like, wow.
Because in the SPUs, you're buy 2, buy 5, buy 3. And the Euros are like buy 100, buy 500, buy 7. Like it was easy.
Then
correct?
I'm watching, and then DJ was in there. I think him and Weldon Kessler. And I'm just watching, in the front and watching these guys buying 1,000 lots. I'm like, wow. Mendez was across the pit at the time. Yeah, Mendez, Pat Mulcrone, Kenny Ward.
And Mendez were partners.
Yeah, and I think JoJo was in there with the Bear Stearns for Bear at the time, I think. He'd just gotten in there, I think. And I'm like, oh my God. And you're looking at the volume and watching them, and they're just filling thousands, tens of thousands of cars.
A day.
And so I was doing that for a little while, and then one night, Harry Lawrence called me up, Harry the Hat, and he goes, I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay. So we met at Hackney's. We met at Hackney's on Harms, Albert and Glenview. And he sat down. He goes, how do you like it in the Euros? I said, I like it. It's great. I said, these guys are killing it. I mean, and I hadn't, I remember the unemployment number. I remember I would go in and fill in the morning and doing stuff, but I wasn't really doing anything, so I wasn't stuck in it. But, that moved real good, because I remember at the time, especially when I got in there full time, that number came out at 7:30 right on the opening with the Eurodollars. So it could get pretty chaotic that, you even though you open ding, number out, ding, you're back this way, you're back that way.
Very high risk time for everybody.
Very high risk at 7:30 in the morning, because I remember I used to tell people, oh my God, the Eurodollars, how easy is it to fill in there? But then I remember those numbers would come out, and at the very instant the market opened, and these guys would be all over the place from one end to the other, and filling 1,000 lots in this very couple of chaotic openings, and that's where it got dicey. So I learned to appreciate that, because no matter what, error is an error, and if it's 1,000 lot, you're not talking about 2 lots having errors on, talking about 1,000 lots. So anyway, so we went out to dinner, and Harry, we were having a hamburger, and he goes, Dickie's going to be leaving Derby, and it was his deck, the monster deck that I think they were doing like 3-4 million cars a year between him, Pizzazz, and Pat Maloney. And I said, we won't get into any of that why or whatever. And he goes, we want you to take it over. I said, me? He goes, yeah, we think you'd be perfect for it. I said, I'll gladly take it over. I go, let's work out a deal and everything. He goes, well, he'd like you to buy it from him. I'm like, really? I go, how much would he like me to buy it for him for? He goes, $4 million. He goes, 1 year's earnings. I said, okay. I said, well, you know what? Let me wrap my head around this. So I'm thinking about it. So long story short, I'm getting excited about it. So we worked out a deal with a down payment, just a down payment, and got a couple of partners in, one of them being Barry Lind. And we consummated the deal.
I want to just add a sidebar on this. In my opinion, they picked you because that spot, Derby spot, was such a intense place to fill orders. I could have never survived there. They had to find a guy that had that crazy ability, because otherwise all that business would have dissolved. They would have gone elsewhere, and they wanted to preserve that, right?
Well, thank
you were one of the only guys that I know of that they could have put in that spot that would have survived. So they picked you by design. It wasn't like, hey, let's grab this guy.
Plus, I knew Harry forever, and I got to know Dickie a little bit, and Dave and Pat, and Dave and Pat were excellent order fillers. You know what I mean? They just banged this stuff out all day long, banged it out, and they had a top-notch crew of clerks. As good an order filler as Dickie was too, but these guys were good too.
That's true.
They had to be. Yes,
that's true.
So anyway, but I knew these guys a little bit, and we had some parties in the day, like the Halloween party that they came to. So I knew them all a little bit, not well, but long story short, I put together a little group, and Barry Lynn was one of them, and put together the contracts, worked it out. Me and Dickie worked out all the negotiations. Then we had to have new employment agreements with Dave and Pat and all that other stuff, making sure everybody was on board and good with this. But I was now excited as hell. I'm excited as hell. Okay. And it was an amicable deal for everybody. I mean, you got this as a down payment. It wasn't all that much. And then I went to my bank and borrowed a little bit of money. And, just to do the deal. I hated using my own cash to do anything, which I had to later on in life. But, if I could go to a bank, I learned one thing. You're having all this money in banks. I can remember going over accounts, I got 700,000 in this account, 800,000 in that account, it was the Northbrook Trust and Savings or whatever it was, Northbrook Bank. Anyway, and I had started banking there when I moved to Northbrook, and I got to know my personal banker well. Her name was Yvonne Adams, and she took such great care of me. And as my accounts got built up, they'd take me to dinner.
Nice.
They wanted more traders in there because people now they wanted traders. You know what I mean? They wanted these brokerage accounts. But they treated me great, and I treated her great. She became a good personal friend of mine, and I ended up hiring her son Tommy. For a long, long term, he became one of my most trusted guys too. Tommy was a trip. But anyway, so I went to Yvonne. I, said, I want to do this. She goes, how much do you need? Okay. And she goes, pick it up tomorrow. I'm like, okay. So I learned that these banks are so easy, and it's so easy to borrow money. You know what I mean? This is easy, which ended up being a nightmare later. Sometimes it's too easy. So I bought the deck, and I brought Vinny with me. I think we were doing some of Ted's stuff too, and me, Dickie, Dave, and Pat went out to dinner. And okay, it was my start date. Now the rumors are swirling. Okay. They are swirling that I have bought this thing. So, and not to favorable reviews by some higher ups and some, some of the old timers, the old guard, all that other stuff. So
rumors were getting out that you bought the deck, right? And that didn't meet.
People were like, how can you buy a deck? How can you buy somebody's deck? I'm like, well, here you go, because there's no rule you can't. And it's a little too late to say you can't. So, but I remember John Gelderman. He might have been chairman at the time, but that group and a few others can't be doing this. Well, yeah, you can, because I started that. I was the first one to do it. So I remember coming in the first couple of days, and then they took me over to meet everybody. And there was Morgan Stanley and Lehman and Payne Weber and Dean Witter and, everybody, all their houses. And Pat Maloney had his own kind of entity. He filled for, 743? Who was that? Remember Langston or?
I got to think. I'm ashamed I don't remember that.
I think he filled B of A and, whatever he filled. But that was kind of like his separate entity. He contributed back, but that, Pat, had his own little thing within the group that he was running, and he was left well alone on that. And, he had his great clerks. And So I met everybody there, and then don't want to leave out a name here. And I met all the clerks. So some of the best clerks ever, and some of the craziest guys you ever freaking met. Thought my clerks were crazy in the S&Ps. So it was Neil Pagano. God bless your soul, Neil.
Awesome clerk. He was a clerk when I was a phone clerk.
He was insane machine.
Yep.
And I'll just get it off my chest now about Neil. God bless you, brother.
God bless him.
We became great friends. We went, he got his seat. We got him his seat, and we did a whole bunch of stuff together. Okay. Had some disagreements at the end that I really look back on and wish we didn't, but love him to death, and he was great, and gone way too soon.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So I just want to know, as Kathy, his wife, and the kids, that he was just out of this world, something else guy.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And our lawyers screwed up our stuff. They got in between us, and my lawyer especially screwed it up by not accepting offers from Neil on some of our things we had together. He never told me about because he didn't think I'd want him.
Gotcha.
And that would have fixed everything. So you had Neil, you had Mark Pagano, his brother, who was awesome.
Loved him.
Mark Swainbank.
Loved him too. Funny as hell.
Oh, no, these guys are great.
I watched these guys, so I know them all. Yeah.
Yeah, so Swainbank, Larry Nero.
Stood right next to me in the pit, still a dear friend of mine.
Oh, Larry was awesome. Phil Metcalf, Meddy's brother. Of course, I brought my guy Tommy Adams with me. We'll get into Tommy in a little bit. Great stories with Tommy. Brought my guy Jeff Estabrook over with. Kevin Sweeney, Steve Lutz, Jeff Lutz. I just didn't want to forget Haggerty. Kelly Walker came on board in a while with Crane, and we all know Kelly's great story. Dean Valamis. The Coppersmith guys, Pete Marini down the way. I mean, I had so many great clerks, and I just didn't want to leave anybody out. You know what I mean?
Did you say Steve Lutz?
Yeah, Steve Lutz.
What a great person.
Great person.
He's a great
Overcame
person.
a lot too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And, we all, and it got a little weird later. Not weird, but like a lot of us shared so many tragic things together.
Yeah.
Over the course of the years. But
Mark had the snowmobile accident and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pagano. Mark Pagano.
Yeah. And that left him
with
the bum arm a little bit.
Yep.
But there's probably more, and if I left you out, but then got to meet DJ's clerks, and then there's Ernie Larson, and
love Ernie, good friend of mine.
Yeah,
crazy,
I love
absolutely
crazy Ernie.
Nuts.
I love it. Just what real quick about Ernie. I remember he when he got his badge and he was filling across the pit with Brian McCormick. Great guy. And I remember one day Ernie got mad at me. He screams across the pit, "You motherfucking Elvis wannabe piece of shit!" You baby, like, hey, take it easy, Ernie.
One of my favorite things, Ernie used to do this all the time. He would take a piece of Kleenex and wrap it around his finger, and he would dig out these huge cornflake boogers. They were the size of like a quarter, right? And he'd go, pump, pump, and I'd look and he'd hold it up like that. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he was crazy. But then
I loved Ernie.
There was Tim Singler, who very close to, and if I'm leaving anybody out, I apologize, but there was more that came and gone.
Right, a lot of them rotated in and out pretty quick.
They were all great.
Did you have Pat Furlong working for you at all as a clerk?
I think DJ did.
Okay, Pat was a legend.
Yeah, so
he was a legend.
No, legend. And I was going to get to it. All of a sudden, you're in there and you realize this family and a lot of these, the Furlongs. Okay, I wrote this all down so I don't forget it.
Those guys were what a tight brotherhood. Unbelievable.
And God bless Marty Furlong, one of the nicest, kindest guys ever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But you had the McGuire family. Okay. Mm-hmm. Ryan McGuire. You had Big Lukey.
John McGuire. John Sr., right?
No, John Sr., to bring him up, was great because I met him back in the 70s.
What was his badge? Whatever. I can't remember. But he was with the Euro Spreaders, right? The green coats or whatever.
Yeah, but Big John, I call him the dad. You know what I mean? He was back in the day of the meets and everything else, and just a great guy. And he created this whole mess of the McGuire brothers, and they were great. You had the McGuires. You had the Mulcrones.
Legendary family. Loved them all.
All of them. All of them. Pat Mulcrone, one of the greatest guys, most logical, mild-mannered,
Polished.
Paul Bunyan, polished type guy that could snap you like a twig in half. But, just one of the nicest guys. So I just don't want to leave anybody out. You got the Fazanos, so you realize, I'm like, God, who are all these guys? This is like one big, most of them, the Burchetts, the Arundels, you know what I mean? The Arundels had the brothers.
A lot of good family bonds. They came in there and they looked after each other.
No, it was like such a tight-knit thing, and that's the way it was down there. Those people have to understand. The old guard was the old guard that started, okay? And these were businessmen who came in the 40s, 50s, to the place, and they were the brokers making a nice living with the chalkboards before anything was electrical. The old time stories you see, but as it progressed and the pits got bigger and the new generation came from the Bobby Hammers and the Ronnie Schillers and all the Colenises came on board, and all the new people came in. They came in, but after that, most of that floor was people who knew somebody. Mm-hmm. I'm bringing my brother-in-law down. Yep. Oh, this place is going crazy. When the currency started getting busy, it wasn't so much in the meats, but when the currency $0, S&Ps started to take off, everybody started bringing their brother down. Oh, we got to make a living here.
Right. There was a need for people and bodies. There was a need,
and may as well bring you down.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So you're going to be my clerk. Hey, what are you doing right now? You're a carpenter. What are you doing right here? I need a clerk. Learn how to do this, and I can pay you twice what you're doing right now, and we'll see what happens. So you ended up bringing, like my family, I brought them in, and all these families came in, and like Don Lanphier, he started, and then eventually Doyle and Dean got their badges, but that was from the start from their dad, and then they brought in their friends. I think Weldon Kistler was a friend of Don Lanphier. I mean, you brought in friends to be with you. You didn't bring anybody else, and if as clerks got bigger, clerk had a friend. Hey, let's try this guy out. So it was really, and then everybody came down there. It's just like the whole Borsellino crew. I mean, they brought all their friends down. The Lewises, the Jim Marchese's, the Curtis Paces, that all of them, Mario Flori. I mean, it just went down like that. And these became traders and they became clerks. So it was really a band of brothers, like we talked about, all people who we knew each other from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. And like we said in the last podcast, very rare was it a Johnny PhD. It was all us people. And so that's what was so great about it.
I literally brought in everybody I knew to come visit.
Yeah.
And most of the time they're watching what's going on and they're like, there's no fucking way I can live through this. Yeah. Right? Because it's intimidating. Right. But you talk about PhD, one of my best friends of all time, he came down there and he was going to college at the time and he started working. Not for me, but whatever. He was running and stuff. And he was toiling between this and school. And then he's like, no, I'm going to school. He has a PhD now. He just retired from CPS. He walked away, but he gave it a shot at least. But most of the people I brought down there, you got to have something inside you when you're looking at the action.
To be part of that.
Yeah. You got to say yes before you even start there. Right. It takes a lot of guts to do that.
I mean, there wasn't people who went to college and graduate school to be a trader in the trading pit.
Yeah.
So mostly it was filled with street guys.
Yep. I agree.
Pretty much street guys and who became great traders and some guys who did go to college and then they went down to the exchange and used their dad's seat or whatever it might have been. But they went through their college and a lot of them didn't go to college.
I just want to call out because you said street guy and I don't know why, but Tony Ponarelli popped into my head.
Yeah.
He was larger than life. That kid, God rest his soul too. Yeah. He went in there and he was a risk taker. He didn't fuck around.
They all came in and it was like one guy I forgot that I met right off the bat, Pat White. Tough.
He trained me. Pat White trained me. So
he just popped into my head. It was these kind of guys, you know what I mean?
He's got a great training facility. Right. He's turning out champions. Yeah. Call out to you, Pat White. Thank you for kicking my ass so many times. So
no, they were great. And Ray Pace, he runs his boxing club, and
tough guy.
Oh, super tough. And Ray worked with me for a while.
Wasn't there another Pace brother?
Curtis.
Okay, yeah.
So Curtis was, they're all friends, but Curtis was with the Joey B crew. Later on, I used to like stop by the S&P pit or watch, and I eventually went back there, but it was funny to walk in the pit, and there's Joey standing up there, biggest trader in the pit going. Okay, then there's Curtis Pace, Jim Marchese, the three Lewis brothers, who I just loved, whomever else might have been in that crew, 8 of them. And then, when it was time for lunch, all 8 of them walked out together. Team strolled across the street, all 8 of them walked back in together. You know what I mean? Across the street, then they go back in the pit together. You learned it was like that, and a lot of families filling, like the McGuires and Luke got filling and John got filling, and a million furlong traders. Ex-cop.
Yeah, he lives out here. I see him at the gym. He's still a monster.
No, I go back. I have private messages with him a couple of times, this and that, but all of these guys. So that's what it was. And everybody brought somebody down.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And the pit was full of that, 90% full of your friends, people's families and stuff like that. So
I want to just tell you how I got on the floor. My godfather, he was, a mafioso of sorts, and he knew all the Spalatros, and he was business partners with Big Vic Spalatro. And he called me up one day. He goes, "What do you know about this trading floor stuff?" I go, "Nothing." He goes, "Well, little Vic's doing really good down there. He's filling paper." I go, "What is that?" He goes, "I don't know. Apparently, the faster you write, the more money you make." He goes, "Can you write fast?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's all right. Well, get a job down there. I didn't know anything about it. And there I was running for $90 a week for Gerald Commodities.
Yeah.
So
good old Gerald.
Yeah.
Is that 084?
Yep. Scotty Goldbeck. Do you remember him? Great guy. He was my first boss.
Right.
Great guy.
Yeah. So that's what it was. So, I mean, it was magical. And then, but, I remember, Mendez and you guys walking over going, "You got some big shoes to fill, buddy." I said, "I'm going to do my best." So I started in there. I'm going to guess a couple of people weren't too happy about it, but there was really, there was Opa, Dickie, Pat Maloney, Pizzazz, me, DJ, Weldon. Then JoJo and Frankie Catazone, awesome
Love
guy.
him. FDC was his badge.
Yeah, I love him.
Funny as hell, too.
and,
Smart ass. Did you have in that line of brokers after DJ and his crew? I think Robbie and Ezel were there, weren't they?
That's right.
Robbie Phillips and Ezel Johnson. Ezel's voice would rise above, and a fast mark would hear him. He was amazing.
That's right. Robbie Phillips, Ezel. That's right.
And then I think Catazone was next to them.
Catazone was there, and then
and JoJo was in that spot at the end for a little bit.
And he came and started doing the Bear.
That's right.
Don't know exactly when. And then it went into the second guys, Mulcrone and Chris Astavis and a few others.
Yep.
But tight as a drum, and then the traders in the pit. There was Larry Garland and Steve Fredericks, and there's Nicky Castaldo and Frank Taddeo and Augie Taddeo and Donnie Mentone and
what a assemblage of Dagos, and I'm a Dago, so I could say that.
Cause
Amably, Joey Amably,
Joey and Louie Amably. I mean,
yep.
They were freaking. We all know where a lot of these guys came from.
Yeah.
But they were great, and then there was more, and then it was just a mixture of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just. What a crew.
Yeah.
It was great. I remember one of the guys when I first started in there, I'm not going to name his name. I started hearing these stories. I thought I was crazy. I mean, these clerks, when I lined up, I remember, I think my first day I asked for a Coke. Hey, somebody give me a Coke. Oh, they had a trade checker named Sherry.
Sherry. I remember Sherry.
Yeah, yep. She was awesome. And so I asked somebody to get me a Coke. I'm pretty sure Neil Pagano shook it up real hard. I open my Coke and it just shoots in my face. I'm like, dude, all right. Oh, yeah. My face off. I'm good. And they're all laughing their asses off because that's the way they were. We're just a crazy band of brothers. And they were like, hey. They all had those, like Neil and those guys. Remember what they build on their sneakers?
The platforms.
The platforms.
Yeah. Because Neil was like, what, 5'5" or 5'6"? He was.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all had those. And I started getting rumors of these crazy guys. Like they had these parties and, they would rent out a suite and have somebody come in and put up plastic and then fill a room with mud and have, women mud wrestlers come in I mean, I started hearing these things. And I'm like, we didn't do crazy parties, anything like that. We had great parties and everything else like that. But now I'm starting to hear some of the more crazy ones. Then I heard the craziest one I had heard yet. One of the guys in the pit had a bachelor party, with a shocking ending to it.
I know the story. That's why I'm laughing.
Well, there's several stories, and I'm not going to name any names. And I'm like, excuse me? What? What kind of sickos are you guys?
Absolutely.
Anyway, so they had the party, and they had built this thing called the Wall of Pleasure.
This was a bachelor party, right?
This is a bachelor party. Okay, and they built this Wall of Pleasure, I guess, and had holes in the walls for to get pleasured, and some of these hot women running around in bikini tops, and guys are making out with them, and they're getting their Wall of Pleasure thing going, and all this other stuff, and well, I guess some guy was making out with one of the beautiful women there, and I guess he put his hand up her skirt, and to his surprise, he got a big handful of balls. A big freaking handful of balls. Okay, and then the gig was up, and I want to use the term correctly, but it ended up that all these what they thought were girls were transvestites. And they were guys. But they had boobs, and so whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Transgenders, whatever it is, he/she's, whatever you want to call them. And I guess the place went up for grabs. And I used to tease the guy when I heard the story. I used to tease the guy and say, Sue. One day I go, I want to hear about this bachelor party. He goes, don't talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Please leave it alone. I go, I can't leave it alone. I go, I just got to know. I just got to know. So like, did you take your dad and like your father-in-law to this party? I go, let's go to my bachelor party. So I said, so I'm going to guess there's about a mile-long line to the shrinks up in Highland Park in Glencoe. I go and he's like, please, just I don't want to talk about this, really. And but I used to write him pretty good about that stuff. And I'd say, bet you a lot of your friends after getting pleasured by those guys, and all of a sudden, that's probably going through their minds at home, when they're laying down with their wife. For some reason, that guy pops into their little head.
You're such a ball buster.
Like, does that happen to you? Anyway, so.
I just want to pause here. People have to understand, like in that high pressure environment, if you don't grow thick skin, you'll combust like a vampire in the sunshine. Because everybody's testing everybody all the time, and we're busting each other's balls. If you don't get thick skin, you're gone. You're gone, and along with that thick skin, you had to get used to getting in an argument with somebody, okay? And then at the end of the day, you could be friends again. Yeah. But look, I came into that pit, and I'm sure people are like, okay, I don't want him trying to go after my business. They were a tight-knit group, that front Eurodollar thing, which I didn't want any more business. I had plenty of business. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where guys would scream and fight with each other all day. Hey, God damn it, you stupid MF. I was offering those. But that's just the way it was. You know what I mean? When somebody got too out of line, see, you also got a fake bravado. Okay, and I'm guilty of it too. Yep, where you had to, because you had the power in the business, you could talk to somebody like that. You know what I mean? And I regret some of that, because some guys though that didn't work on some guys. I can remember when somebody across the pit screamed at JoJo, I think it was. JoJo went right across that pit and said, "Hey, you motherfucker! You don't want to mess with JoJo." No. But hey, what'd you say? And so there were certain people, nobody did that to. But yeah, you had to have thick skin, because besides your risk factor and your volatility in fast markets, you had to have thick skin against your fellow man. Yeah, it's like a jungle in there. Everybody's trying to survive. And I never like to get in altercations with people, but I had a few people walk across the pit like that to me. Yeah. And I'm a little guy, but I was, I was
strong as
training
could
and
be. You
stuff.
were
And
pumped. You were
I'm like,
pumped.
hey, relax, man. We don't want to do the man dance. Trust me. It ain't going to work out good for either of us,
Right. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So,
And people don't also know if there was an actual fight in the pit where there was a punch thrown, it could be a couple $100,000 fine.
oh yeah, I mean, at first the fines were a little small for that kind of thing, but then they really raised them up. They didn't want that.
I saw a headbutt in the pit.
Remember that?
And it was a $200,000 hit.
$200,000 headbutt.
Yep.
Everybody saw it.
Yep. And both of those guys were my friends too.
Yeah.
I saw that. And it was a stupid little beef.
It was stupid.
They were going back and forth, and everybody's like, whoa. And then the one guy went across, but he headbutted the other guy, and I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe what I just saw when I saw that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You could hear it down there.
Yep. And there's just one more sidebar. It was illegal to bring food in the pit. If they catch you, they fine you. And we were having banquets in the pit.
No,
right?
we had banquets in the pit. Okay, go get 50 cheeseburgers. Go get this. Go get this. Go downstairs and get 18 BLTs.
And we'd be throwing it at each other like footballs in the pit.
And
funny.
by that time, I'd bring Nick's Fish Market in. You know what I mean? Or I'd up in the offices though. I'd have Nick's Fish Market, Rosebud on Rush. I'd cater out to those. And touching on those restaurants. Nick's Fish Market was by far my favorite. Me and Mary started going there in 1981 for our first anniversary, 1982. And what a crew of guys. What a first-class restaurant. I don't know, did you eat there much or no?
I ate there like 3 times.
Yeah, the one on
Jacket
Monroe.
Required.
Yeah, but it was down below in the bank.
Yep.
But that whole crew from there, George and Kirby and Johnny I and Nicholas himself, got to know all that whole crew of people, Vince and
just the most impeccable service of any restaurant.
Yes.
The first time we went there, you would take a sip of water, okay, and you'd put it down, and there'd be a guy waiting in the wings. He would come by and just refill it. I go, guys, watch this. And I went like this, and I didn't take a drink. And we were looking at him, and he got up on his toes like he was ready to like rush over there and refill that one sip. It was amazing. Phenomenal food.
Phenomenal food, phenomenal service, and got to know those guys well because we went there all the time.
And $4 signs on the price point there. Yes. When they rate the restaurants.
No, it was up there.
Yeah.
But I used to take care of those guys pretty good. We had some great times there, and I hope they're all doing well wherever you guys are. And Billy Arnott had to have seen him in restaurants along the way. Billy was the master host, and then I used to hang out at Rosebud and then Rosebud on Rush. Went over there, which was fantastic, and that's where I met Benny, who started Valari, who now owns Valari.
Awesome restaurant.
Benny Sadu, yes. So he was with Rosebud then, and Benny's awesome. Still great friends with him to this day, and just saw him not too long ago when Priscilla Presley was in town. He came to a little dinner with us, and then of course Alex Dana and the Rosebuds I went to, and Rosebud on Rush, and then the 2 guys that were over there were Bobby and Augie Arifi. And they were fantastic. And they ended up opening their own restaurant in 1995 called Cafe Lucci in Glenview. They took that one over, and it's still there. Fantastic. Great guys. Fantastic. So, started going to those. And then Gibson's opened up, and, everybody loved Gibson's and Kathy. Kathy, you are a sweetheart. I love you to death. Kathy O'Malley at the time, and Steve Lombardo and that whole crew. Those were the places.
Yep.
Those are the places to go.
Places for the places.
Yeah, and I remember at Nick's Fish Market also, there was a guy named Muhammad, called him Mo and Tommy, and I'll just expound on it. And then they ended up going to Gibson's. A lot of these top-notch guys, jumped from places.
Yep.
Billy ended up going to run Centro. Billy Arnott was doing Centro. And the guys were doing, Carmine's when they opened. And so they're all kind of the same group. They'd go from restaurant to restaurant, and but they were the only restaurants I would really eat at. And then of course Gilardi's up north by me. Gilardi's owned by my friend Phil Gilardi, who I met through Jimmy Clennis in 1985. He opened up a place up in Vernon Hills / Lincolnshire that was fantastic. I used to go up there all the time and brought lots of clients and customers, parties, and actually they named a dish after me up there. It was called Veal Jimmy P.
How did that come about?
That came about when I wanted some I wanted some dish one night. The veal Oscar, okay, with the crab, veal Oscar with the crab. They didn't have any crab, so I said, put some lobster on there. So replace with lobster. They did, and I loved it. It was great, and I ordered it all the time, so they put it on their menu.
Nice.
It was the most expensive dish on the menu.
Oh, what a surprise!
But the Gilardi family, young Phil and his wife Tina, and all the family that went with that, they were great, and they closed up. It's all closed up now, and Big Phil has a restaurant up in Richmond called Paisanos, which is outstanding, and Little Phil has his place in called Tina G's in Mundelein. So, but that was my home away from home up north, and those are the only places I really went. And any clients out there listening to me, all these places. Anybody living in the North Shore, Gilardi's. So, because I took them there all the time, but it was all great stuff. So, and actually, I did some work for Alex Dana not too long ago, and I want to thank Alex for that, and Nick Lombardo, his guy, and the whole crew over there, along with George Dana. Gotten to know George a little bit, so I still go to these restaurants.
My friend, you have a good full life. You have met a lot of people.
No, I have met so many people through so many things, and a lot of it came from jumping from pit to pit. If I would have stayed in the meets, like I would have never met all these guys in the S&Ps.
Right.
And if I didn't go to the Euros, I would have never met these guys in the Euros.
Right.
So you keep meeting. Then I ended up going in the Eurodollar options later on. We'll talk about. I met all those guys like Ricky Fellman and Kaz, two of my favorite guys in the world. Okay.
Talk about a funny guy, Ricky Fellman. Ridiculous.
The best.
Yep.
Joe Cosenza. I mean, the best.
Great guy too. Yeah.
Oh no, fantastic. Those guys and a few of the others in there, and
a lot of characters in there.
Yeah, and then so you meet all these people, and they kind of reconnect with them here and there in life, and you realize and you meet people through them. You have experiences through them, so it was great. Start getting going in the Eurodollars, you know what I mean? And I'll tell one more quick story, which was great. Keith Burchett one day. I loved my hair. I thought I had the Elvis hair, and the all that kind of thing going on. So, and I had just moved my parents here from New Jersey. I bought him a house right behind mine. So my dad wasn't doing that good in the last few years. So I bought them a house behind mine and all. And that's why they're gonna be in the story. So we did that, and so I loved having them behind me, taking care of them. Bought their house, the whole ball of wax. Now I got 3 houses now. Now I got Placeland. Now I have my house in Palm Springs. Now I have my parents' house.
All like getting loans for everything because you like to keep your money, right?
So, but now, I had given Dickie some money down.
Right.
So, and our deal was, a payoff over time where you got a certain amount every month from the business until it was paid back. I won't go into the amounts, but it worked for everybody. But the Eurodollars, if you remember, got a little slow.
Yep, I remember.
91 and 92 were a little slow.
I remember.
Real slow, okay? So the numbers weren't quite there and not even close to what they were doing. But that was okay because this was a long-term thing, so I was good with it. But I remember I had just moved my parents in there and everything like that. And I remember I wanted to do some work on their house, The guy estimated it cost about 20 grand, whatever it was. And plus my mom needed a new car. I love buying them cars. I would surprise my parents with new cars. Volvos, this and that. That was one of the great perks of being successful. You're buying everybody cars, like when Jack Fahey, get the champagne Carmen. Right after our wedding, me and Mary were out. He had this white Chrysler, I think, a little rusty and everything like that. He loved a Cadillac. Knew he was probably never going to get one. I stopped by Steve Foley Cadillac. I picked him up a champagne Eldorado.
Nice.
Brought it home. He came out in the driveway.
Wow.
It's like, did you get another car, Jim? I said, no, this one's yours. Tears running down his face. So
awesome.
Doing that, my parents did the same thing for them. Got them cars. They needed it. So I love doing that. My sister, I had her in the grab bag one Christmas early, and I went and got her a red Audi. So But anyway, so I walk in the pit one day, and Keith Burchett walks in the pit.
One of the biggest traders ever.
Ever, and one of the greatest guys ever. And but he shaved his head. Do you remember? Maybe it was right before you got there. Keith Burchett was bald. He shaved his head.
Well, if you were in the Euros, I was there, but I don't remember him shaving his head. But whatever.
Then he ended up keeping his hair crew cut anyway. Remember, didn't he? But he had a nice mop of hair.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, I'm like, holy shit! He shaved his head. I said I should do that. One of the guys next to me goes, "Yeah, I'll give you 10 grand if you do that." Like you, Elvis, you're gonna shave your head.
You had a freaking perfect Elvis head.
So I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Yeah, I'll give you 10 grand." And another guy goes, "I'll give you 5 grand. You shave your head." And somebody else said, "I'll give you 5 grand. You shave your head." I go, "You guys serious?" You know, and they're saying, "Yeah, it'll never happen." Well, that night I went out and shaved my head. I said, just to get them, I want to get these guys. So, and then I called the guys, and then I think Larry Nero might have been with me at the time, a few others. They shaved their heads.
I remember that.
So
we were like, what's going on? Yeah.
So that's why it happened. They're just begging me and making fun of me being vain and Elvis. I walk up and I tap the guy on the shoulder. He turns around. He's like, "Give me my 10 grand. He's like, "What the fuck? What?" I go, he goes, "I was kidding." I go, "I'm not. Give me my money."
Yeah.
Long story short, a couple of guys all chipped in with one of them. They said, "We'll chip in with you." Da, da, da. So I got 20 grand.
Nice.
Cash. Brought it home. I walked in the house and this is, I said, "We're going to fix up some stuff around here, Mom and Dad." And my mom's like, "What did you do? Oh my God." And my dad's like, "What the hell did you do?" And my mom goes, "You look like a cancer patient." Well, when I whipped out 10,000 cash and threw it on the table, I said, "There you go." You're like, "Oh, you don't look that bad." So, that was another funny story that, stuff like that we used to do.
Yeah, great, crazy stuff like that on the floor.
Crazy.
All the time.
So now I got all this going on. I got 3 houses, all this other stuff. But as soon as I bought Dickie's deck, and after down payment, all this other stuff, subpoenas came flying out. The sting, the FBI sting.
They had FBI agents in the pits.
Oh yeah, they had FBI agents.
For people who don't know.
Now, and we'll go back to it. We had 2 in the S&Ps, but they could never get close to an order filler, and the S&Ps were too crazy. It was Peter Vogel and Randy Jackson, they called themselves, and I knew something was wrong with them. I could just tell, and people got me mad at me later for not saying something. And I knew something was wrong one day when one of them, they had an office upstairs. I think it was called Dolphin Trading or whatever. And I had sold a 5 lot at the market. Okay. And I think it was 5 lot at 80. And 80 was the high. And we broke. And the guy came over. He said, "Can you let me out of that?" I said, "What?" He goes, "Can you let me out of that? I'm getting killed on that." I go, "Gee, let me go ask my customer." I go, "No, I can't let you out of that."
Was it one of those guys?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't let him out of anything. And I never traded with him. And then one of them did a 1 lot with me once. We had a price out or whatever, and I think I wrote a check for it. But they couldn't get close, so they had left the S&Ps. And then they went into the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. All of a sudden, they're showing up. They're in the pits now over there, befriending everybody in the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc and everybody. So they, left the S&Ps. Number one, it was too volatile for them. They couldn't get close to a broker. They were stuck in the middle of the pit. Nobody was letting them up because that was one of the busier markets at the time. Like the Euros, you were sandwiched. The locals were there. They couldn't get up there. So they couldn't get close to anybody or anything. And they were losing money in there because, they didn't know how to trade. And the rumor was ADM helped them, train them to get into the pits because they felt they were getting ripped off on their orders. But all of a sudden, subpoenas. And they visited some guys off the cuff at their house.
Wow. From
the yen. A couple of guys got scared real fast, started talking with them, cooperating with them. They were scared because the feds told them, "Look, we're going to take your house. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But if you help us. And then, one of the guys they would take out for drinks and tape everything he said, pretending they were his friend. They're new in the pit. Yeah, we want to be, we're here to help you. And they taped God knows how many tens of hours of conversations with him while they got him drunk. You know what I mean? And things like that. So all of a sudden that exploded, and the exchange was just in shock. People and subpoenas, people were freaked out.
And is this after we had all the cameras installed?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but I can't really say. But all I know is also that the Fed investigations here, subpoenas, and they've been in the pit. You don't know how many more are coming. Who's going to get subpoenaed? They did a first round. I wasn't on that first round, and all of a sudden, I was warned you could be getting one. You never know, but it's just currency, guys. But I got one anyway. I was told ahead of time by, my people. They said, be ready because of who you are. And knock on the door from the feds. I remember there was a guy agent and a girl agent. Very nice. Hey, Mr. Place, we love to come in and talk to you. And I said, I have nothing to talk about. I don't even know why you're here. Well, we'd like to talk to you about your trading practices, and maybe if you'd like to talk to us about anything else. I said, nothing to say. I said, well, here's our cards. Here's your subpoena. Here's your whole thing. And I'm like, all right. I said, well, have a nice day. And they left, and I called somebody, and I said, I got mine. They said, get over here right now, Got over there, and they gave me the name of the lawyer, Eddie Jensen, to call. And Eddie was a renowned lawyer at the time in the Chicagoland area for the last 20 years and handled an awful lot of cases for an awful lot of different kind of people. So saw Eddie right away. Had a nice fat retainer, And he said, don't talk to anybody. Anybody talks to you about this, you don't know who's wired. You don't know who's soft. You don't know how they got their claws into people. He goes, you got to know that the people are going to be wearing wires, and don't talk to anybody about anything. Okay. I said, got it. Okay. And he goes, how are you feeling about this? I go, I'm not scared of this. Why should I be scared of this? He goes, they could come after you and make your life miserable if they want. He goes, let me answer to the subpoena, and I'll call you back. He answered to the subpoena, called the FBI agents, and he called me back over. He goes, they really want you bad. Because they want all your checking account information, bank accounts, this and that, and that. I said, why? I go, do they have anything that I traded with them? They said, no. No, but they're hearing stuff, and they think people can testify against you about things you have done. I go, so let me get this straight. They don't have me on anything, but they're getting people to testify against stuff I've done. He goes, yeah. He goes, but I'll get back to you on that. He goes, just be ready. So as time went on, they tried to get a few people to testify against me for certain things, but a couple of people wouldn't because they said they were scared of people, their perceived affiliations I had and everything else like that. Or if it didn't work out, that, they would be blackballed forever. So there was a risk factor for them in their eyes. And then the feds had even told some people that they thought my last name was Placiano, and that I was with the mafia, and I was all this stuff. I mean, it was ridiculous. But I got my subpoena, okay? I remember when I got my subpoena, Leo Malamed walked up to me on the floor outside the Euro pit. Give me a little tap on the cheek. He says, how you holding up, bucko? I'm like, I'm holding up just fine, bucko. I said, how are you? Now, mind you, I had filled a lot of his stuff in the S&Ps, lots of his stuff, okay, and took very good care of him, So I found, it was his nervous little "how you doing, how you holding up," and of course the Barry Lyndons of the world and everybody else were like, "How you doing?" So I'm doing just fine. So we created a tight knit little group of a few of us where it was all good, and anybody outside of that I wasn't talking to. You just didn't know. I was coached by some of the best who have been involved in stuff like this forever. So here's how you handle it. And my lawyer went back and said, "We're not giving you everything. Go get it yourself." Place didn't do anything. Go get all this stuff yourself. We're not cooperating. We're not doing anything. You want his bank records? Get them yourself. Then I had to go over to the Dirksen building, and they give you your mug shots. And they were over there, and I saw the guys who were in the pit. I'm like, "What's up, guys? Hey, how are you?" "Well, we're going to take that big house of yours and blah, blah, blah." I said, "Really?" I go, "No, you're not taking anything of mine. What did I do?" We'll see. If you have anything you want to tell us, just let us know. A lot of your friends out there are helping us out." I said, "I'm sure they are. I've heard that a little bit." I said, "But I got nothing to say to you. And I go, "And if something comes down the road with me, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it." Go smile for my mugshot. I said, "Can I have a copy of that?" Which I didn't get, but I said, "Have a great day, everybody. See you later." And but the place was up for grabs in paranoia. Anybody could have been caught doing whatever. Anybody. Nothing went on happened from the Euros. Nobody from the Euros got subpoenaed because they never went in the Euro dollars. Okay. It was just the currencies now. No meats. Nothing from anything like that. I mean, these guys didn't do a very good job. Yeah, they befriended some currency guys and scared a few of them. But I remember guys asking me at my office, friends coming in, "Are you wired? You have to tell us if you are." I go, "Guys, I'm not wired. I promise you I'm not." I said, "Come on, you know me better." Now, there was also a bookie we used to use, old time bookie, father of one of my friends, actually. And, I used to use them a little bit. And a few other traders did. Well-respected / connected guy, and because you weren't a bookie back then unless you were. I came out of work one day, and all of a sudden I felt a little arm underneath my arm. "I got anything to worry about?" I said, "I promise you." And he goes, "Okay. Love you to death, Jim."
And you can't hold that against those people.
No. And I said to him, I looked at him, I said, "I would rather sit in a jail cell behind a plant with my thumb up my ass than ever rat anybody out." I go, "I promise you. And don't worry about anybody else that I know that." He goes, "Okay. All right. Anything pops up, let us know." So, but I walked away from that very uncomfortable.
Of course.
Uncomfortable, and I got the old little plaque handed to me from somebody. And the words were, "The friend of my friend is my friend. The friend of my enemy is my enemy." I'm like, "Okay."
Somebody gave you that plaque?
Uh-huh. "The friend of your friend is my friend. The friend of your enemy is my enemy." So, and then a few other things on there. But I'm like, all right. So
this is just a yes or no question. Do you know who gave that to you?
Yeah.
Okay. You wouldn't have to name names.
No.
Okay.
And I still have it. I love it. And a couple other things are on there. Then it got a little silly. Then you got, "The enemy of your enemy is my friend," and then the enemy of blah, blah, blah. So, there was about 5 lines written on there, but the first 2 said it all. Everybody's nervous as can be, and all of a sudden you're hearing rumors that be careful of certain guys that got subpoenas and stuff. They're wired, that they have stuff on. So all of a sudden, one of these currency guys appears out of nowhere, and he's trading euro dollars. I'm like, yeah, okay. And you know what? I don't like to name names. I don't know if I should, but he was such a rat. You know what I mean? But anyway, the day he's in there, he buys an offer from me. I'm offering 50. I can remember it was a 50 lot. Call it 12. And he buys them from me. Check it out. The next day, I'm out, and he has them in at 1. Guy goes, you have a price out with so-and-so. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. He said, I go, what's the price out? He goes, you're out to sell him 50 at 2. He's in at 1. Considering we're pretty slow here, and everything else. So I walked up to the guy. I go, we got a price out. He goes, yeah. He goes, you know what? I'll go your way. You can just pay me back when you get some orders. I go, really? I said, no, I don't think so. And I said, I know you're mic'd up right now, so I'm really not going to say anything. But
you call him out right then?
I said, I know you're mic'd up because you wouldn't have give me a price out on this. You've been around a long time. So actually, I'm going to write a check. Not to you, though. I'm going to go your way, and I'm going to write a check to the clearing firm for $1,250. So I got my out-trade clerk. I said, go his way. It was a Dean Witter order, I remember. And I wrote a check for $1,250. And then I went over to his friend who was in the pit, and I know he was friendly with one of our brokers in the pit. And this person wasn't around anymore. And I did tell the guy, I said, don't ever trade with me again. I said, really, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. They were trying to get me on some stuff after the fact. They couldn't get me anything in the pit.
Right. Well, they were setting you up on a trade and then trying to,
but they wanted me. They wanted me bad. I had a target on my back. Okay. They wanted big fish. They couldn't get them. And now you also have to remember, Anton Valukas at the time was the attorney general in charge of this. Okay. Anton Valukas, though, years before was with Jenner and Block, and he was a defense lawyer. Okay. And he had a lot of people from the commodities used him for any commodity cases. So he couldn't go after them. And some of them were pretty big fish. They were off limits. Okay. He just couldn't. But I went up to the guy in the pit, the broker in our pit, after his friend was gone. And I said, are you fucking serious? Are you friends with this guy? Are you still friends with this guy? And so I told everybody, watch this guy. He's mic'd up and he's wired and everything else like that. And he didn't last long doing that. He was going around trying to do that. I mean, it was so obvious it was stupid. You know what I mean? So, but guys who, even when they got subpoenas and they were clearing somebody's firm, okay? The guy running the clearing, who owned the clearing firm, was kicking guys out, even if they just got a subpoena. We don't want you here. You're a bad apple.
That's paranoid, man.
No, they're paranoid. But one of the guys is a guy I did a lot of shit for, and he had a lot of nerve. Because shit that he did, and he owned his own clearing firm, was far worse than anybody got convicted for. Okay?
I see what you're saying.
You know exactly what I'm saying. But now he's playing the high almighty, okay? And I didn't like that. But guys were kicking them out. Everybody now is getting the subpoenas. They're going to these lawyers, and lawyers are tripling their retainers. We're traders. Oh, they got shitloads of money. Yeah. Now a lot of these lawyers out around town are just like raping these guys for just their retainers and going forward, okay? My guy, Eddie Jensen, he was so fair to me and whoever else he was using. You got a retainer, he wasn't going to rape you. But he was the best lawyer out of all of them. So... I mean, it got just incredibly paranoid down there and changed the way so many operationals. And I think that's when they started having cameras in and recording better and all this stuff like that. Compliance was feeling foolish because, according to the FBI and everybody else, that we had become a criminal enterprise with so much abuse going on, and you never really saw much out of it. You know what I mean? As far as that. So it changed the way compliance did everything, how everything was monitored from there on in going and everything else like that. And, long story short of that, between the Board of Trade and the Merc, just the Merc from the Swiss franc and the yen pit, as far as I can remember, it was between both exchanges about 40 something guys. The guys from the Merc, they had to go to trial, and trial took for freaking ever. Some of these guys were going broke, okay? And they ended up pleading out to like I think for $87
For a $87 problem in the pit, right?
Yeah.
Something that
they said they did wrong.
right.
They pleaded out, and for probation or community service or whatever it might be, but they couldn't afford the lawyers anymore. So they just wanted a conviction on some of this stuff. So some guys pleaded out for nothing. You know, I mean, some of these fines were one was $6.50. Okay. And then they got them for trading after the close, which we call the post, but that wasn't legal back then. So
do we call it the curve? Trading on the curve? We
could
had
have
a term. We had a term for it, but whatever.
it was a curve.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. It was after the opening. After the close, I mean. You know, you settled up. Okay, ding, the bell rings for the post. You had got a minute to clean up your shit. So curve, post, curve, whatever it was. We didn't have it yet, so that was illegal as far as that was,
right.
You know, so they did that, and some guys got busted on that. Okay. There was not any kind of like monumental multi-$1,000 thing that, you know, it was just a whole bunch of trades that they did go to court. 2 got acquitted of all charges. And then I think the rest of the guys from the Merc got maybe 1 charge against them, maybe 2, maybe 3, but there was no RICO, which they wanted. The feds wanted they had visions of RICO, and they scared the people with RICO. Triple damages, we're going to take everything you own. Not 1 RICO charge. It was baby stuff, as far as I'm concerned, at the Merc anyway. I think at the Board of Trade, they had some bigger fines and bigger jail sentences. But a couple of guys pled out, and then friends of mine, and one guy did 9 months in jail, one guy did this, and it was for nothing. You know what I mean? It was $87. But as they pled out, I mean, and the way it was looking, though, to some, you know, maybe if they did get hit on RICO, they could have 5 years. So they didn't turn on anybody. They pled out. So there was nobody turning on anybody anymore. Those people came up, and we know who they are. And I'd run into them here and there. They were done. Okay. People who turned on people and continued to turn on them and continued to try to entrap. You know, it was one thing being on tape and saying stupid stuff where you didn't mean to. But when you became a stoolie and a rat for them, trying to save their own skin, they should have realized the rats got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And they were done. They were done at the Merc, in their social circles, whatever it might have been. And God forbid they ran into somebody from the Merc. You know, hey, because I did run into one of them at my daughter's baseball game. I was coaching, you know, 9 years old, whatever, playing Little League. One of the guys over there who turned on everybody and wore a wire and everything walks over, he goes, "Hey, Jimmy." I said, "Get the fuck out of here." I said, "Are you kidding me? Are you coming up to me to say hello?" I said, "No, man. Get the fuck out of here." I said, "Go sit back over there with your team. Don't ever talk to me again. You should be ashamed of yourself." I said, "The way you did this," I go, "was horrible." Okay. You know, I said, "So don't ever talk to me again and don't come over here again." And that was the end. Bye. And I think you should do a podcast on this. We should do a podcast on this and bring some of the guys on who were there and who were acquitted or convicted or whatever. You know, they could tell you much more than me. I wasn't one of them, and I don't know the ins and outs and the trial and they had the juries and everything. So I can just tell you from what I know firsthand that, you know, that a lot of them got community service, probation, small baby fines, paying a customer, because that's what it was. Wasn't anything huge, but it was infractions, and you know, it was against the rules. And you know, I should look up really and should really research and see what some of the guys at the Board of Trade got bigger fines, but and some of these guys got kicked out of their firms for nothing and weren't allowed to get their seats back and everything else. And some guys pled out, and you know, they could become clerks and stuff like that. But some of it just was bad luck for some, and you know, they went from being a member to back to a clerk with your brokerage group or whoever it was, and you were banging those things out for $20,000 a month, and now you're a grand a week clerk, and so it's heartbreaking for some of these guys, you know. And we tried to help whoever needed help. a band of us did help some of these guys out.
Mhm.
And with their families and everything else. And we did do that for a lot of them that needed it, who were good guys. So, and I don't really where to lead into that story anymore, but my thing went away, but I learned a big lesson against it. I mean, with it, but like I said, it became a very paranoid place and people became very self-righteous and guys who they should have gone after were the biggest critics of what happened and the people who were at the end of it. You know how it goes. So. But people they weren't worried about me after a while. I was like, I'm good. I didn't fear it anyway. I remember my lawyer goes, what if something does happen? What are you going to do? I go, I don't know. Figure it out. I just didn't kind of have any fear in me about anything. But, unless somebody testified against me for something or set me up, but that backfired with that one guy who did it. It was too in the open. You know what I mean? How fucking stupid can you get? Buy 50 in a slow market, price out the next morning.
And then making a deal with you, just trade with me in the pit, now go your way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, no, I'll go your way, and I'll write the check. Getting back to the Euros, I had started there, and I got to meet all the guys at the desk at Morgan Stanley, at Lehman, all the great guys. And one of the guys I knew, Randy Affey from Morgan Stanley, I knew
him.
His wife, Linda, who was with Bachelor. She was Leo's guy in Bachelor in the S&Ps. That's where I got to know her from the Belly days and then Bachelor. And so that was great. I loved Linda and just talked to her the other day, actually. So I got to read, all that crew, all the stuff. I said, I'm ready to go. And they said, well, we know who you are. You'll be fine. I said, good. They just said, we just like to bang them out, man. Bang them out. And, we want our fills. Any problems, let us know. And, you had the guys from Lehman with Jimmy Schramm in that group and Ben O'Connor and a few of those guys. And
they're some of my favorites, those guys.
No, Dean Witter, with Charlie Turner running that crew.
Crazy, man.
Crazy Charlie. God bless his soul.
Yep.
Charlie Turner, Stumpy. Remember Paul Powers?
Don O'Neill was up there too. He became a customer of mine.
No,
dear
Don
friend.
O'Neill was a great customer of mine, and he helped me out later on when I went in the third and fourth. Not the third and fourth, the back months. Way later, Donnie helped me out. Donnie was a huge Elvis fan, monstrous Elvis.
Yes, he was. And just so you know, he moved across the pit.
Yeah.
He moved to the other side, and he became my customer.
Yeah.
And he had the greatest reverence and respect for you. I mean, he almost idolized you. So you did a real good job with him.
And like I said, when I went back in the back months at the end of my Euro career, he, on my headset, would call my headset and give me all, those freaking bundles and stuff, which we'll get into later. But anyway, I got to meet the whole Witter crew and Bono. Mm-hmm. I had Kevin Ferry. Yeah. So the whole crew. Probably a couple were leaving out. But they were awesome, and Payne Weber with Paul Borgren and Lola and all of them. I know I'm leaving some guys out.
Oh, there was so many people over there.
Right.
Yeah.
I think John Murphy was on my side, but I think Pat Maloney was doing his stuff.
He wound up moving up to my side, too.
Yeah, on your side, with Citibank over there. Pat was doing a whole bunch of. I got to know them too, but they weren't really considered my customers because they were Pat's, even though he was part of us. But I got to meet a ton of these guys. Pete Yastro, he was great. I think it was Greenwich at the time that went to EDF Man. Mike Brinza, who ran all that.
Yeah, he was 287.
Yeah,
GMP.
287. Yeah. You know what I mean? All sorts of guys. You know what I mean? And I'll remember them as I go, but I'm trying to remember the names.
Yeah, there's so many. You would have to write them down in notes beforehand. There were so many people we looked at every day.
Yeah, there's just so many of them. So it was great. And I was like happy and it was flowing and it was going. It wasn't that busy, but I got real acclimated to it all and thought I was getting along with everybody in there real well. You know what I mean? And I had brought over a couple of my clerks, Jeff Esterbrook, who I talked about, and Tommy Adams and Vince Hall. And, so the first couple of years were real good there. And I really enjoyed it there, and I thought I was pretty much friends with everybody in there, and I enjoyed it. Getting acclimated there, leaving the Spoos, and of course I did Lynn Waldock stuff, in the Eurodollars. And I want to give a shout out to the Lynn Waldock crew that ran things there. Kevin Roth, Ryman Flippin, Paula McKinney, her sister Robin. There was a whole bunch of them, and they were great up until the very end. So I'd always had a great relationship with them, and and I want to give a shout out to all the locals that I met in the Eurodollars who, just, from, the Keith Burchetts, the Arundels, the Chili's, the JML, Greg Beard, Grizz. I mean, all these guys. I wrote some more names down so I wouldn't forget some of these guys. But they were incredible too. Norm Beister,
Great guy.
and Mike Beister, the brain.
Amazing.
Amazing brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He used to do the tricks with the math in the pit and blow our minds.
No, I mean, I don't know how he went on TV with that stuff, didn't he?
He's got a whole
I
system.
think he did, right?
Yep, for sure.
I'm pretty sure he did go on TV, with that kind of stuff. But there was a lot of them. And, later on to Large Marge and Margie Teller and Carto.
She was some, yep. Just some legendary people.
No, legendary traders that, it was crazy, when I saw that, the way they spread everything off a lot. Like if Chili got a 500 lot from somebody in the second, he'd shoot the order up to DJ to, buy 500 in the first. So, DJ had quite a good spread business off of that. He filled a lot of those guys' stuff over there.
Yeah, and I want to do a shout out to Tommy Arundel because he stood in front of me.
Right.
Tommy has amazing mind for numbers.
Right.
Okay, and he had his guy Chris just stand next to him in the pit, and Chris was just standing there with a calculator. Okay,
Right.
and Tommy would be like, buy 500, sell 500, da-da-da. I mean, all day long. He was insane, and he needed a guy just where am I at right now?
Yeah.
You got 20,000 stuff on.
I watched these guys.
He was amazing.
It was amazing, and in the infancy when I was there, it was just like spreading against the front. You know what I mean? After a while, it was, when the third and fourths came along, I mean, it became just a monstrosity. But, these guys, they took everything you had, the size.
Yeah.
And it changed my opinion in the beginning when I'm like, it's a one-tick market. Okay.
Right.
No. When it got reeling, you made mistakes. It could be on 5,000 cars. It could be on 500 cars. It could be whatever it might be.
Right.
And then, because we were slow in 90, 91, 92, but I just want to make sure, then you had, Larry Garland and Steve Fredericks, who I mentioned and stuff like that. And, all the rest of the guys started coming in the pit.
Yeah, there were a lot of great locals in there. A few coming to my mind. Kip Merring, Kipper was Kipping awesome.
Kip.
He grew to be a monster.
Yeah, he grew to be a monster. Dave Vecchione.
Yep.
Love Dave. The Federikis.
Yep.
All the Federikis. I mean,
there's another family, that little cluster they brought in, right? Because Marco brought in Scotty and Damon and all his Dante. Yeah.
Yep. And all those guys and Dominic Dantino and just, all these guys, and it was just great. And, my family had moved up to there after a while, and my brother Chuck and John Fahey, and then I brought my brother Mike Fahey, who became M. Fahey, started being a clerk there with
Which
us.
one always had
John.
The big wad of chew in his mouth?
John had that, and Mike had that too after a while. I'm not sure, But it was going okay, and, the guys who invested in my thing were a little concerned in the beginning because, okay, the numbers aren't really what we thought.
Right.
And then, 93 and 94 rolled around. We started getting busy. I remember the first Christmas there, I had told, Dickie and Dave and Pat, I go, what are you giving these guys for Christmas?
The clerks, you mean?
No, the clerks, they were taken care of. Okay, they.
Oh, you meant the customers?
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
The clerks, they had systems in place, which I loved. The more, the better, because the numbers were so huge.
Yeah.
The clerks had the 10% system in place, whatever it might have been.
Right. Gotcha.
So they were well taken care of, making great livings. But the customers, so I said, what are we getting them? How much are we giving them? They go, well, little as we can. I said, well, I used to give my clerks, in the S&Ps, we were humming, 5,000 each for Christmas, whatever, 4,000, and they're like, no. So I said, guys, I heard you gave them bicycles for Christmas one year. or VCR. I can't do that. I said, I just can't do that. So I think, if I remember correctly, we separated. They gave him stuff and I gave him cash on top. So I gave whatever I could. You know what I mean? Plus, all year long, and my guy, and Dickie and David said, knock it off. I gave them, dinners to everywhere they wanted to go. Them, their families, their wives. I gave them presents, concert tickets. I had this company that made Elvis Gold records. And they made other gold records for people. And Don O'Neill, I sent him a nice Elvis gold records. And then guys who were Jimmy Buffett fan, I'd have a big gold record with Jimmy Buffett with the plaque on it. I was into that for a while, giving all crazy gifts like that.
How much fun was that?
Oh, it's the best.
These guys are loyal customers, and it's joyful.
And plus, you're doing a good job for them.
Yes.
Okay. And
Well,
you're
that's
doing
the
a
main
great
thing.
job for them, and you're taking care of whatever they needed taken care of. And I remember, there was like a $2,500 error in the beginning, or whatever. And the guys were like, I don't want to pay this. I said, well, wait, that guy gives you 150,000 cars a month. He's a shit about it, $2,500 error. But that was just the mentality.
Right.
You know what I mean? No. I said, I'll eat that all day long. I'll eat one of these every day.
Yeah.
It was the net end.
Yeah.
And, you do what you can to take care of all
good
that
business.
stuff.
It's righteous to me.
Yeah. It was a great time. And I'm just trying to recollect in the beginning there. It was great. I'm sorry if I left anybody out that's in the pit at the time, whatever. And, new brokers were coming up. I think like Brian McCormick was there, and then Ernie got his seats.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I like Brian and Ernie. I'm still friends with you.
And so, another great thing is I ended up meeting the Credidio family in 1989. I think I met them, and they owned the father, Big John. I call him because it's John Credidio, that we know now, but they owned the Chicago Studio City.
Yep.
And they were,
that was like in Cicero, maybe?
yeah, Cicero on Taylor Street over there. And they were doing all the movies in the city. They were it. And after meeting the Credidios and everything like that, I used to go over there and check it out. This is so cool. Like Backdraft was in town doing that movie with De Niro and Kurt Russell and Baldwin, whatever it was. But I'd get all autographs from them. Patrick Swayze was in there doing Next to Kin or whatever it was. Got autographs from Pat. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'd hang out there. And then they introduced me to somebody who was doing a movie. So I tried out for a part.
Did you get it or no?
Yeah, I got it.
What was the movie?
It was called a complete shit movie called Shaking the Tree.
Okay.
Shaking the Tree. So there was a guy, Tony Tomasco. And Tony ended up being the producer of the Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Okay.
That was extremely popular for 20 years.
Huge Broadway show, right?
And no, but he took it here and he had it at Piper's Alley. And, it took off like a monster for him and his brother Joey. But anyway, he was doing this movie called Shaking the Tree. And so I got a part as a businessman in the bar. Okay. I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm going to be in some movies now.
You still may be, my brother. That might be a calling.
So then I find out Courtney Cox is in it, and a guy named Doug Savant from whatever TV series was popular back then, some of these guys. So actor named Ari Gross, who I didn't know, and I've never heard of since anyway. So, but Courtney Cox, she had just got done doing that Springsteen Dancing in the Dark.
Yep, that's launched her into fame, right?
Yes, it sure did. So, they said, okay, they didn't know who I was. One guy didn't know who I was. He goes, the casting director goes, we're going to need you to have a nice suit. And we're going to need you to this. I said, well, I got nice suits. I got great jewelry. I got cars. I have the nicest suits there are. What do you want? So, because I had, by that time, I had met all the good
tailors.
And plus, Clentus introduced me to Robert Griselle, which had great, leather jackets and these, all this other stuff and shirts. And then, of course, they introduced me to called Ultimo. It's called Ultimo at the time. And then Maury's Menswear in Northbrook Court, where I knew the guys, got to meet Larry and his brother, and Maury himself, where I shopped like crazy. And, Neiman Marcus buying all their Aston Turnbull shirts, whatever they're called, or the cuffs and the $250 each, and So I had it all. Had all the jewelry you can imagine. So I showed up for my first day, and they wanted to do rehearsals and makeup, and I brought a whole jewelry case. I bought a wardrobe, and I had my brother-in-law, Mike Fahey, drive me in my nice Benz I had, and I showed up, went to the guy, I said, what should I wear? What suit, what tie? I said, want me to wear cufflinks? You want me to wear gold diamond cufflinks? Guy's like, man, you're killing me. So I had Mike Fahey as my valet. So we're going to go through some stuff, these lines. I had the script, what I was supposed to do, and I was in a bar. I forgot where we were filming it at. I was supposed to joke around at the bar with this girl and say, oh yeah, blah, blah, whatever it was. Anyway, but I had to get makeup done with Courtney Cox. She was a tiny little thing, and she wasn't quite as busty yet at the time. You know what I mean? So
I know what you mean.
Whatever she did later. So I'm sitting with her, and she's so cute. Courtney Cox is so cute, and I'm looking at her. All I know is from the Springsteen thing. I'm like, listen. I said, I'm from around here, and I said, love you in the video. And, so if there's anything I can do for you in Chicago, let me know. It's like, okay. I said, yeah, anything. I said, you name it. Anybody gives you any problems, let me know. Anybody even on this movie set gives you any problems, let me know. Yeah. So we're getting our makeup done, but long story short, so we go in there and we're filming for a few days, and I didn't like the look of the girl that was supposed to be the girl I was chatting with at the bar and all this other stuff. And she was just rubbing me the wrong way. Went to the casting director, and I said, I really don't like her. He goes, you don't? Really? And he goes, and who are you? I go, I'm the business guy in the bar. God damn it. I want a hot chick. Anyway, it ends up one of my friends was producing this movie. So they switched her out.
Unbelievable.
They switched her out, and I get back in the afternoon, but then she comes up to me later. You son of a bitch. You had me switched out and da-da-da. I'm like, I didn't do that. But it was a lot of fun, getting experience with the cameras, rehearsal after rehearsal after rehearsal. I mean, it was a total garbage movie. Got horrible reviews. But after it was wrapped up, I thought I had my 10 lines in the bar saying, hey, sweetheart, you can send that over here or whatever it might have been. Talking with somebody else about business, Billy Big Shit at the bar, Billy Big Shit businessman at the bar. And I was telling everybody in New York, my family, hey, you got to go see this movie, Shaking the Tree. Okay, I'm in it. Now, I didn't see any rough cuts or anything. I didn't see the final product. My sister, Agnes, God bless her soul, calls me from New York late that night. I saw the movie. Horrible movie. She goes, and where were you? I go, what do you mean, where was I? She goes, I didn't see you in the movie. I go, you're kidding me. So that night I get on the phone, and my friend, I go, I'm not in the movie. He goes, I have no choice of what they cut out, what they did. Because this happens a ton. You got to understand, Jimmy, you're filming, might be filming 300 minutes, only 90 minutes makes it. He goes, sorry about that. I go, God damn it. I'm not in this. I told everybody in the world I was in this movie. Anyway, it was a great experience. And it was great getting to know the Credidio family, who I'm still very friendly with, and got a couple of more things with them later. But
I got to tell funny Johnny Credidio's story.
Go ahead.
He was a big Vegas guy, and we were in Vegas at the same time. I got home, a day before him, and then he came in the next day. He looked like he was beat with baseball bats. He was so tired. He was giving up,
Yeah.
I go, how'd you do? He's like, I give him this. I go, size? Like, how much did you make?
Right.
He goes, $250. I walk over there, go, you made $250,000? He goes, yeah. He goes, it was unbelievable. I was hitting everything. I go, how'd you come home with $250,000 cash? That's a lot of wads of cake. He goes, I had it here. All over his body.
Wrapped around here. Yeah. I think I heard about that. Wasn't it some of it with Baccarat too? Or
I don't remember what he made it on.
Yeah.
He said that we came home with like suitcases full of Dom, champagne, and Cristal.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, it was crazy. So
that's right. Yeah, I heard that story. Yeah, that he made a fortune over there. Great guy, great family.
Yeah, I love them.
And some good times. And I did a lot more stuff over at that studio, which was a lot of fun. Which I did a movie over there later, which I also got my lines cut, but you can see me though. And I want to mention a few more names that I got to be very good friends with in there. With Pete Stavros and Opa, and then there was Bobby Heelan. Wojo was awesome.
Wojo.
Yeah, so
Another funny guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he was there when I started, but I think Bobby came in, so he was great. Paul DeLucia came over.
We talked about him last one. Great guy.
DeLucia. I think Johnny Kirsten might have came over and worked there for a while.
He popped in next to me in the second option. I don't know if he was in the front or not.
And then we hired some more guys, and got more guys in there, and it was going along great. And then we got to 1993, it started picking up. And then 1994, let me go back to 1990, okay? Let me just say this. 1990, I finally had my son. I had 3 girls, okay? Mary was pregnant again, and I finally had my boy. And I was praying, okay, I want to have my boy. Got these 3 beautiful daughters, but I want my boy. And so I remember bringing a base. We didn't know back then. I brought the baseball to the hospital, okay, and everything else like that.
What does that mean?
I bought a baseball with me.
For what?
For good luck.
Okay.
I want my boy.
I got you.
I want my boy. She delivers, and out he comes, and there it was. I'm like, yeah. So now I had 4 kids, So I have my son Jack now, and he's awesome. And now I got 4 kids and growing in my family. So, I wanted to just get that in there. So I was excited as could be with that. And so, I could have had 10 kids. You know what I mean? So, but I loved it all. But, as we're moving along, 94 rolls around. 93 start getting busy. And then, I really... nothing in between to talk about, no stories or anything. I'm getting, I got the houses and I got this, and it was a pretty uneventful couple of years there. Got into the parish, in my area in Northfield. Was the president of the athletic board, the school board. I started that since the 90s. Happy in the parish over there. Met a ton of friends in Northfield. One of them who I work with today, and Teddy Kossoff, Salon Spa. I met Teddy back as soon as I moved into the Northfield area. He was great, and he created a lot of youth services programs, in our areas, and he's a legend in our area. And him and his son Alan, run Teddy Kossoff's over there, who I have been with them for about 7 years now, doing corporate partnerships, promotions. I'm the professional greeter. First guy you see when you walk in there, it's me. Hey, Myrna, go get shampooed. Jimmy, can I have a water? So everything was going good, and we were heavy into our parish, heavy into our community. Like I said, made great friends, and so everything was going pretty good, Unfortunately, during that, my dad had passed. So that was sad to lose him in 92. But
he was still living behind
he was
you?
living behind me, yes. He hadn't been feeling well for years. And it just some stuff just caught up. That was very sad. And then 94 started out with a bang because I think something with the interest rates, whatever it was, and Dickie had left. He had left by 91, maybe 90, doing his thing. So it was me, Dave, and Pat Maloney. And I forgot who we put a badge on, to help us more and this and that. I think we badged up a couple of guys by then, maybe. But, we had some turns of clerks, but I think I mentioned pretty much all of them. But 94 came along, and I don't know if you remember, but, it was a banner year. It was a killer banner year. You know what I mean? Killer. I did the most in there. We were busy every day. I think the biggest month I had myself personally was like $330,000 for myself that year. That 1 month with Rothner and Pizzazville and their stuff. And so it was a banner year. And then my 5th child was born. So I had my second boy born in 94, June of 94. And I had 5 kids. And I'm like, all right, 5 kids. Things couldn't be better. We're busy as hell. The guys are looking at returns on their money who invested in my deck are like, oh my God, this is great. A guy who invested 10% got a check for $15,000 that month. You know what I mean? $20,000 that month. We were knocking down at the debt. And it was something else. And it was going along great. Well, let me tell you a funny story about that. After my 5th kid, I had we decided I'd get a vasectomy. So we had 5 kids. Everything's going great. I think we're good. So I get a vasectomy, okay? And so we got the vasectomy. Then I have to have it tested, Like we got to see if you're potent or not, all this other stuff. My guy Tommy, who's worked for me forever, my banker's son, and so he pulls in my driveway one day. I said, wait here. He goes, okay. I go, you got to go drop something off for me. So I go inside. I come back out and I have a little bag.
Now, did you whip up the batch right then and there on the spot, or was it already refrigerated?
No, I ran in there and whipped it up right there. I went in there, ran in the bathroom, whatever. Okay. And I'm like, wait here. So I go in there and I whipped up my batch, got it in my little cup. I come out. I said, Tommy, I have it in a little baggie. This has got to go to wherever the urologist was, whoever was. He goes, okay, what is that? I said, well, I have to see if. I go, I said, don't take it out of the bag. He goes, why? I go, because it's a little thing in my cum. He goes, what? What? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it tested to see. I go, so this has got to get over there now while it's steaming hot, man. I go, and get it to my guy so he can test it and post it. He goes, I don't want to do this. And I go, no, you got to do it. He goes, this is disgusting. I said, Tom, you're the cum carrier. I said, you got to drop this off now. And it was hilarious. I mean,
the cum carrier.
Yeah, it was great. So, it was.
Hey, kudos to you to whip up a batch on demand.
Yeah,
right?
Batch on demand. I went in there high pressure, but I had to have it tested. And, up until things were great. 94, 95, I was having a record year in there as far as I was concerned in the Eurodollars. It was so busy. The cash was flowing again. I just had my 5th child. So now I got 3 girls, 2 boys. I decided, Palm Springs was too much because to travel with all 7 of us and kids in school now, we couldn't come and go. So I told my wife I'd love a little cozy little ranch house up on a lake somewhere in Wisconsin. So I said, we'll sell the Wisconsin house and
the Palm Springs
house, and we'll get something in Wisconsin. So I was like, great. So I sold the Palm Springs house. Maybe in a day or 2, I called the realtor, sell it furnished. I sent somebody out there to get out of there what I wanted with a truck. I had somebody drive a truck out there and then bring back what I wanted. That was mine. And all clothes and stuff like that. So anyway, so that got done. So now we're out looking around, little houses in Wisconsin. And then Kalenis calls me and tells, well, John Credidio, he's selling his Wisconsin house. He's got a cabin up there. I'm like, a cabin, nice. I'm like, great. So I made plans to go see it, and I knew Mr. Credidio and the family by now, Johnny and brother Joey and stuff like that, and we're all good friends. And so we make a plan on one Saturday to go up there. Me and Mary go up to Lake Beulah, just north of Lake Geneva, on a beautiful private lake. Okay, and I had seen it before because the Spilatros had a big place up there on Lake Beulah, so I would visit that one, time to time. But I think they had gotten rid of theirs by now. Anyway, so I pull up on Oakwood Drive in Lake Beulah, and what I think is a street. I pull up and I took this giant long driveway. There's like 5 acres in front of cut grass, beautiful pine trees lining it. And I think that's like an entranceway, a street, or a little field. I pull up and I see this beautiful cabin. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And so I knock on the door, and Mr. Credidio answers the door. Hey, Jimmy, and come on in. And he sits down. He had a crew of about 8 guys with him sitting around this long table. The cabin's gorgeous. Beautiful cabin. The kitchen, double Viking stoves and 2 Viking refrigerators. I mean, just gorgeous. So, and he's walking me around the top. There's a bedroom to the left, and there's a couple of bedrooms over there, and there's a master down here, and a big kitchen, great room, dining area, all surrounded by glass windows, kind of like an octagon type thing. And it was gorgeous. Went out on the patio, looked down at the lake. He had built the whole thing to drive down to the lake. It was pretty steep, but he built his own driveway down there, and it was all sealed. It was all gorgeous. Okay, he had a boat, a pontoon, a speedboat, and I thought it was gorgeous. And I thought it was a 3-bedroom, beautiful cabin. Then he goes, okay, come here. And he opens the door in the hallway, and we walk down, and, he was on like a slant. He was on like a, whatever you call it, ravine type thing. And we go down there, and there's 5 more bedrooms. 5 bedrooms spread out with this giant pit area with a giant fireplace, a whole bar and entertainment area where the pool table was, and another big bathroom back there with washer dryers. I'm like, oh my God. 5 bedrooms down below, but all spread out, gorgeous. And then I asked him, I go, what are you asking for this place? He said $1.5 million. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's not what I'm looking to do. Not what I'm looking to do. Then we went down by the lake, and he had a lake, a shed down there filled with every toy you can imagine. And he had his own little beach, all this stuff. The place was on 10 acres, okay? That first front 5 that I thought was maybe a park or whatever, that was his property too. And he had a 3-car garage, log cabin. It was all log cabin, rustic, furnished to a T. He goes, and he said, $1.5 million, furnished, everything, all that yours. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, but so now me and Mary are just walking around outside now, just by ourselves. I'm like, I don't know, I go, but I do love it. Then anyway, I walk back in the house. There's Mr. Credidio at the table of his 7 or 8 guys that are sitting around the table with Mr. Credidio. And I said, thanks, Johnny, for showing us and everything. And one of the guys who's sitting there, and I don't know, but I got to know, turns around and goes, congratulations on your new house. I said, well, he goes, you're buying it, aren't you? He goes, you're buying this house, right? So I go, I'm going to check that out. Looks at me, I'm like, probably. So anyway, I'm like, and they're all laughing at the table, and like, okay, John, see you later. We walked out of there, and I'm like, driving home, I'm like, oh my God. But I got home and I said, it's gorgeous. I wanted to spend maybe $300,000 on a little ranch with some wicker furniture and, a little thing. Well, long story short, I bought it, called the bank. I want to do this. And actually, Mr. Credidio gave me, he gave me a mortgage on it too. He said, oh yeah, I'll do this and I'll do whatever. So now I own a lake house and I'm ecstatic. And what did I do? I went out and bought, 4 wave runners. I went out and I bought 10 4-wheelers. 10. I had this thing called the Big Boss. It was a big ass 4-wheeler with like a trailer on back where you could carry stuff down. You know what I mean? An open trailer on it. I bought this big giant other one. I remember it was blue. And then I had 2 other ones, big ones. And then I bought 6 little mini 4-wheelers again. And I numbered all the 4-wheelers 1 through 10. And the 6 were for the kids. So I had to have helmets. Okay. And I'm like, hey, I need some snowmobiles. So I bought a few snowmobiles. So I'm loading this whole thing up. I go, I don't know where to put this shit. So he had a guy who did all his work for him, a guy named Jeff Roberts, who, and John also had a giant Deere tractor out there. He had everything you can imagine Mr. Credidio had to do all this. So, but it was in the garage, and I go, where am I going to put my stuff? So I called this guy, I said, I need to make this a 5-car garage. So now I build on and add on to the log cabin garage to make it huge and a 5-thing garage, but no cars went in. It was all for our equipment with electrical plugs to charge to this. It was insanity. Fixed up the beach down there, put electrical stuff in, the next couple of months. Built a picket rail fence going around, the whole front 5 acres. And I was borrowing from the bank. I ended up dumping another $200,000 in after we closed on the house. But it was something else, I'll tell you that. And his boat that, came along with was a big, water ski boat, great boat, pontoon boat. So I built another deck. And then I built a giant, 800 square foot, whatever, deck off of another deck so we could hang out there and, lay in the sun and park boats against it. So anyway, so that was great. So we had that going on. And 95 was another banner year. And, things were just great. I had a few more friends came on down. Joe Gooley, who worked for Gilardi's restaurant up there. He came down and, started trading, a good friend of mine to this day, Joe. Great guy. And a few others around there. So, I had the family there. I had some friends there, and this will all correlate later. But it was going great. I had my 5 kids, my beautiful wife. Life was freaking outstanding, okay? The money was pouring in. My partners were happy. I'm almost getting the deck paid off, just about, with Dickie. Then it's going to be mine. And I'm like, okay. And, at the end of the year, I put up my Christmas lights, of course, 94. I put up my Christmas lights, and 95. I put them up every year, but, I did it real big that year. I had my whole house outlined, and you name it, everything up there. I mean, Placeland was aglow in Christmas lights, and I really stepped it up and added a ton to that. I had to plug into neighbors' houses because I ran out of wattage. I mean, no matter.
You're tripping all your circuits.
I'm tripping everything. I mean, I had, my soldiers in my driveway, I had a big driveway that pulled up. They were 30 feet high. Okay. And then they had an arch above them that lit up. And then I had, a 20-foot tall Santa Claus over here that opened up. I had everything. And I had 50 trees wrapped. I had my whole house thing. And my good friend Don Witt would help me do it every year. We did the whole house.
Wow.
Okay. But then this time now I wanted giant lights on the top of the house, the peaks of the roof, like a freaking runway up there. So I had it fantastic. And the ComEd guy would come in every year, and so he was doing some work out there. And he goes, God, I drive by here. I live out in the area, and I drive by and see it because this is so great. Because your electric bill has got to be off the charts. I said, yeah. I go, now I'm plugging into my neighbor's houses, both sides. I'm tripping this. They can't even put up Christmas lights. He goes, I love it so much, and you're such a nice guy. He built me my own power box with about 20 plugs, put it on a tree out of sight, and then wired it into the ComEd power lines. So I never had to pay for it.
Wow.
So he goes, you have all the power you need. You could light up this block. So I gave him a couple of $1,000. Thank you. Then I gave him all these gift certificates I had to these restaurants because it was getting close to Christmas, like Rosebud and Gilardi's and Gibson's and, you Carmine, you name it. Nick's Fish Market, because I always bought, tens of thousands of dollars worth of gift certificates to those restaurants. Gave him all that, replugged everything in. I'm like, oh my God, this is freaking. Then I got more lights. I said, now I got power. Then I got more stuff. And it was on the news all the time. So then I had my Santa Claus come at the end of the year that I had. that I had found through somebody. And, you thought it was Santa Claus. He came and he would come in my house. I'd have all the kids sit over there and close their eyes, and I'd have them, start singing, "We want Santa, we want Santa." I snuck him in through the back door. He'd come in, jingling his bells. "Ho, ho, ho, I'm here." And all this, he'd come in his chair. The kids would wake up, all cousins and everything. I'd have $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of presents that I had bought and gone out and, with the list of everybody's names and what they're going to get. It started out one present each over the years, then it got to like 5 or 10. It was insane, and it was great. And then we would do Christmas Eve and, and Christmas Day and in 95, I guess, everything was great. You know what I mean? And little did I know, as we got into 1996, that's when it all started to change a little bit. And slowly things got unraveled. And that's for the next story. So we've heard about the rise from runner to deck handler to where I've gotten to be. And
this is your peak, brother, right here. We're finished with that.
I am peaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm peaking. And like I said, I could do no wrong with the banks. You had brokerage going through the banks, Adams going through the bank. You had everything going on. They were loaning me money left and right against this, seats. I mean, everything, and I want to give a big shout out to Blair Robinson, God rest his soul. We lost Blair about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. He was our friends in Northfield, and he started Northview Bank and Trust. And he started that himself after a nice career in banking. And we did a lot of business. I should have invested in it because it was worth a fortune. But he was very good to me over at that bank. And he ended becoming my George Bailey. Okay. So a little later on, he ended becoming my George Bailey.
Oh, boy.
And I can't thank him enough for that. So he was a special man, him and his family. So anyway, that's it. So on the next chapter, we're gonna go into party's over.
Yeah. All right. This was great, Jimmy. Great stories. I want to mention to everybody out there, Jimmy and I are going to be doing a trading floor series. So all of you traders and anybody who worked on the floor, if you have interesting stories you want to share with us, we're going to co-host. We'll have you guys on. So reach out to me by Facebook or email. My email is franklardino@yahoo.com. Send me an email, and Jimmy and I will talk to you, and we'll put together some great podcasts. So I just wanted to put that out there. Special thanks to you again, Jimmy.
You got it.
We're getting closer, and you and I are going to start nailing down some great podcasts with other people. To everybody out there watching today, thank you for joining us at the Warrior Podcast.
And I'm going to interrupt you, Frank. There's so much to hear from people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just my silly stories, but there's so much that should come on. I mean, just like about everything. We could, I'm sure there's an 85-year-old old timer that would love to come on and talk about those days.
Yeah.
And the new kids and everything else. So, I mean, I think this is the start of a great series.
Yeah, awesome. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us for the Warrior Podcast. My special guest, Jimmy Place, and dear friend. And remember, there's a warrior inside us all. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.